concept. You have a great concept. You guys are doing it, man. And it's an honor for me to just be, a small rock, man, in your mountain. I'm going to pop a top in your honor.
Mr. Doc Walker blessed us with his presence and knowledge.
We want to welcome in our next special guest, Haley Skarupa. She's a three-time world champion in women's ice hockey and most recently won Olympic gold with Team USA.
The Cap Stadium Series is definitely my favorite, obviously. I'm a huge Caps fan, I always have been, and to be there at that game with my teammates and for us to bring, our gold medals to there and share it with everyone in this area was really, really special for me, and just the support and it's been tremendous from everyone in this area, and you can feel that there at that game.
Welcome to Sports on the Hill podcast. Hashtag DC Sports Without the Politics with Carol and Robbie on True Radio Network.
And welcome to episode 375 of Sports on the Hill podcast. I'm Robbie, joined by two of the members of the Power Play Point podcast. We've got Gil, the blue liner on point, and we've got Anna Knox joining us. They have a wonderful new episode that just came out that summarizes the season quite nicely. They've got a special guest on that show, and it's bittersweet. I think you guys did a good job of talking about the strengths of some of the players and the highs and the lows of the season in some ways, but like what your expectations were on them. I just realized I had feedback. Let me see if I can fix that.
That's what that was.
Okay.
Anna and I are trying to figure out how in the hell, Darth Vader with the flu came in and invaded the podcast.
There you go. I fixed it. I'm sorry. I'm sure when you guys were talking, it was doing it too. But luckily, that never made it to stream. But anyway, I'm happy we figured it out early this time because that's happened before. For some reason, that computer likes to unmute itself, but there's no microphone, and so it just makes up a voice. So, anyway, exactly what you would want to have happen, right? But you guys do a good job of picking some different players that fit into different categories. But Gil, I'll let you explain it a little bit better, and also talk about your extra co-host who's been phenomenal all season long.
So yes, as I promised, we had something, but only something of an all-star session. Unfortunately, C4 could not make it due to some prior commitments. She does contribute to the show. It's an Easter egg, spoiler alert, after the outro. So if you want to hear her take on the season, stick around for that. So she does make an appearance, but it's myself, Anna, of course, and our backup to the backup, as I call her. That's not her nickname. I'm going to make up a name for her, I promise, if I can get my brain in gear. But it's Jenny Clausen, who has been a fill-in a couple times a year, so I thought she deserved to sit in with us on the finale. And like Robbie said, yes, we go over the final game, the elimination game, and what went wrong and what little went right. And Anna gives a very unique evaluation of some of the better players and not so better players, and we kind of recap the whole year in retrospective, and it's wind it up as best as we can.
Yeah, there you go. So you guys will definitely go more in depth into some of the player details. So I don't think we'll do that as much today. So if you want that analysis and their thoughts on both of their takes on different players and throughout the season, definitely go check out that episode. It was great. I enjoyed it. My son especially liked all the sound effects that Gil put in for the lovely cursing. So I think Gil actually, one of his favorite ones, I think it was a Gil curse word possibly. So I don't think it was all you, Anna. So so go check it out if you like fun sound effects. We do no editing here, so you get the raw and uncut version for sure. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in across all the different platforms. We are live on Kick. We're also live on YouTube, where all of the VODs, and now if you want the audio podcast, I'm sure people have figured it out by now. You can either check it on any of the platforms. We're live on Twitch, of course, and it's kind of become the home hub of this podcast. And then we're also live on Facebook, we've been live on Facebook for now 10 seasons. So over on SportsOTHP.com, you can check out all of the latest episodes, as well as links to Team Sports OTHP, which has all of Anna and Gil's links, and also Champ, who will be on later. And then you can also check out all the latest stuff. I'm also going to be revamping Webbing Games and Sports OTHP, both under the same umbrella this summer. So new websites coming to celebrate season 10 in the fall. So I'm excited about all of that. So lots of fun and exciting things. It's an interesting time of year. We've got the NHL playoffs, the NBA playoffs. We'll talk a little bit after this last Caps game in our retrospective. We'll bring in some other guests. C4 is going to join us in a little bit. We'll also have Ryan, ThatEFlatGuy, giving us the other side's opinion on what happened in this series. We'll also preview the upcoming conference finals in the East and the West in both the NBA and the NHL, as well as talk about DC Defenders have punched their ticket into the playoffs with 2 weeks remaining, which is always exciting, beating a rival that actually ousted them for a championship a couple of years ago. So,
Nice.
And it's also the Dallas team. So, you know, it's always fun to beat that team. Anyway, so we also have a big announcement in the UFL section. Champ and I are going to a game. We'll talk more about that. We're going to go to the last game of the regular season with Carol, and we're also taking Tim as well. So the
Nice.
four of us are going to all get to experience a UFL game. So we'll talk more about that, as well as baseball updates, soccer updates, and more, and maybe even some WNBA news that Champ has got, and some wrestling. So lots of topics in hour two, but let's get ahead of it, and let me see if I can. I'm going to have to do some screen switching real fast. And let me do this over here, and then I'm going to share. Where are we here? It's this VLC player over here. So this is why I now do it as a visual one, because audio, I'm sure, wouldn't be very exciting, but we have it here. We go. So that is good, and then I need to do one more thing. Sorry, I don't. Switch to our hockey overlay. Ha! All right, there we go. So this game did not go the way that we had hoped, right? You know, so when last left off, you know, we were down 3-1 in a series, and we were cautiously optimistic we would win the home game and probably lose in Carolina. After watching what happened in the Toronto series, Gil, though, I'm definitely happy that we didn't do a situation where we just keep that hope alive till you get a home game 7 and then you just get destroyed, you know. So, you know, overall, I was happy with the effort in this game. And if you're going to have to go out, I'd almost rather go out this way than, you know, getting destroyed in Carolina or destroyed in a game 7. You know, it's weird that I kind of felt better about it, because I just kind of thought we weren't going to ever have enough to necessarily beat this Carolina team. We kind of talked about that. And the one nail in the coffin is I felt like we had to score first, right? I felt like if we scored first in this game, we'd have a really good chance in it. And at least this goal that tied it came quickly, but we did not score first. So that kind of put us behind the 8 ball here. But I do like that we were able to tie it up with this goal. And let me just move this out of the way, and I'm going to let you break it down.
Okay, so starting the play, Carlson breaks it out to Leonard. And Leonard, I think, deserves the assist on this one. He did not get credited with the assist, but Leonard pushes it from center to just over the blue line. Beauvillier captures it and beats his man to the puck and tucks it past Anderson for the goal. And as Robbie said, this came several minutes after the opening goal, which has usually been the backbreaker, but it was great to see the Caps respond very quickly, relatively quickly. So, Yeah, it gave us some hope. But yeah, also, spoiler alert, this would be the only goal the Caps would score in this game. And yeah, that tells you how it ends. But I thought they showed great effort. I think they deserve to win this game at a minimum. Uh, just I and what can you say about Beauvillier? He's been a great surprise, great trade deadline acquisition. Um, there's serious discussion about extending him, keeping him as part of the team. So I hear. So that's great to hear because I think he's meshed very well with this core group. Really great that, and kind of fitting actually that he scores the last goal of the season.
Yeah, I definitely have liked his play. Anna, what are some of your thoughts on how he's played?
Yeah, no, he's one that was not wasn't really sure if I was going to be a fan of his when he came on, and he surprised me. And I'll say I was shocked, and I have become a huge fan of Beauvillier. I think he stepped in. He's been consistent, and he just added to that chemistry, and that's what we're always looking for. So I was happy to see this, and I do feel like he's going to be a plus in the next coming season.
Yeah, for sure. And once again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I also wanted to thank Champ, who resubbed earlier. He's actually doing a live podcast. So he resubbed on mine while doing a stream.
Nice.
He will probably be rating in a little bit. So that, he's got multiple accounts going. Talking wrestling. We'll have him on a little bit later. Carly's also in chat, so I wanted to thank her for moderating our Twitch chat as well. And welcome to all the people that are viewing across all the different platforms. So yeah, it is a little disappointing that it ends here. Gil, do you want to talk about the last goal that was against us at the end?
No.
No.
I'd rather not, but we must do our job.
Yeah.
That we don't get paid for doing.
Right.
So technically, the very last goal was an empty net goal that
Right.
was the dagger, but the game-winning goal
Right. Yeah.
was scored from the right circle, deep in the right circle, and yeah,
It's a
it was
crazy
kind
angle.
of crazy angle, kind of fluky goal in some respects, but it's also the kind of goal that Carolina is very good at putting away when situations are dire. I think
Excuse me.
they did a good. I forget who carried it, but I think it was TNT. They did a good job though of explaining that on the actual shot itself, on the zone entry, Carolina was threatening, and so Thompson got set and then kind of reset. And while he was in the middle of resetting for the second attempt, is when they got him. They got the shot through, and it just barely squeaked through. Yeah. And then it was game over.
It's such a good game and series. Like he didn't. We couldn't generate enough offense, and it was just too much time in our zone the whole series, and it was just definitely very frustrating, for a whole lot of reasons. But I kind of knew that was how this was going to go, and just unlucky too. I mean, we talk about the goal that never was, right? Like there was a chance where we go up 2-1 in this game, and it's called back because of offsides. It happened 41 or I don't know, it's like 20 seconds before. Anyway, it was a long time before, and that really kills you. Like it just. I felt like we had a lot of momentum at that point, and I don't know. What are some of your thoughts, Gil?
Well, about that goal, that second goal that wasn't. I mean, okay, yes, the right call was made. You have to say that, and that's
100%.
That's that it's good. That's good that the right call was made, and you don't win or lose by a mistake. that was made by the officiating. That said, I really, really think the league needs to sit down and seriously consider implementing some sort of rule that says, all right, you have got X amount of time before you can declare whether or not you want to challenge it. And of course, if you challenge it, you lose your timeout. But no more of this. No more of this. We'll call a timeout so we buy time. Buy our video coordinator time to look at it. Who, by the way, that's their sole job, is to run the tape and look at shit like that. Pardon my French. But
so
yeah.
I agree with you 100% with what you're saying. I also think there needs to be a time limit, that if 15 seconds of game time goes past, you can't go back anymore. Like there should not be this unlimited, like, it happened 3 minutes ago, you missed it. Like, what happens if that, like, I know that that's not this case, but like, there's not a limit into, like, it, at that point, it had not affected the goal. Like, the whole point of that rule, Gil, is that, like, you don't want people entering zones and having an unfair opportunity. If they've had zone time and opportunities to get it out, and, you know, a considerable amount of time before that has happened, you know, at some point that part of the play is over, right? And you know, it's just, that's my personal opinion on it.
That's what you call the spirit of the rule. I don't think something like that breaks the spirit of the rule. So yeah, that's a whole other. Unfortunately, that's a whole other part of the discussion. But
I agree with what you're saying too. Yeah,
I definitely do not think there should be time wasted. If teams employ, every team has one. We have two. Every team has a person whose job it is to review exactly that thing happening, and has their finger on the button to review it 5 and 6 times. Look, I mean, so I don't claim to be some sort of Hollywood producer. I'll be, full disclosure here. These things that I do, and you'll see it later, plain as day, if and when Robbie decides to show it. These things I crank out in about 5 or 10 minutes, maybe more. Okay. So someone much more skilled than I think, can pick up in about a half a minute what happens in a play and can review it several times within that quick time limit that it takes to dig the puck out of the net, go to center ice, and do the face-off. I think that's ample time for somebody whose professional capability is that job to determine and then whisper to their coach, hey, challenge this now.
Yep. I want to welcome to all of our friends that are joining us. We got NotBland21, who's also a part of our podcast team over there. So it's good to have you join us. He's doing a hydrate for us. We've got Primordial Sounds, a good friend of our stream, and Andy, a mod of the channel, joining us as well. So thank you guys for all being a part of tonight's show. Unfortunately, it's the last Caps Talk, and I want to get your thoughts on sort of the rest of the game, or any other elements of it that you wanted to talk about.
No, I was frustrated. I mean, that seemed like an understatement. I really thought they were going to come in and rally, and I think we all were hoping we were going to see the team that we'd seen all year. And for some reason, Carolina had our number, and I don't want to say it, but hats off to them, because you know what? They did play 60 minutes. And they played smarter hockey than we did. And I think at one point we were desperate, thinking, oh my gosh, okay, we didn't score in the first period, so let's do what we've done all season, and let's be that second half team. And it just wasn't in the cards. And I think in the first, last time we spoke, I always felt like if there was one word that just stuck out to me, it was they just were sloppy, and again, it all kind of comes back to overpassing and trying to make these pretty goals and whatever, and all of us like shoot the fucking puck, these moments. But overall, like this entire season has been amazing. And if you think about the fact that we watched history, in the making with somebody that we've all been a huge fan of with Alex Ovechkin. That is just, um, there are no words for that. So I think overall, and you know what, Robbie, I think the more I think about it after the last week, excuse me, the last week's episode, when you said that this probably wasn't our year, but next year,
Mhm.
you're on to something, 100%, because I'm
Yeah.
starting to look at, who we've got coming up and who we have currently that's just going to get better.
Well,
And that
it's a
was
good
kind
way to analyze our year in the sense
yeah,
of like we got to a new level, and at this point we see who shook out at the end, right? And then we can make some adjustments. But people seem worried online. It's interesting, having conversations with people, and I'm like, they were like, we have 2 or 3 positions and not a lot of money. I'm like, I think we'll be fine. I think we're only 3 or 4 players away, right?
yeah.
I don't think. So I feel like if you are smart with how you fill those positions, we could be right back here again because the core is staying together. So there's no like reason, there was no secret sauce. This is the 50th season that they're going to suddenly like lose that dynamic. I think it's just going to
Right.
grow, and then they'll bring those 4 or 5 extra people up, and they can be part of the dynamic too. I don't see this as so many people were like, well, this was the window closing. I was like,
I don't
yeah.
know. I honestly, and that was why yesterday when we spoke on our podcast, I wasn't going to do who got an A, who got an F kind of thing, and we did like I said, it was a love, like, and meh. And the love, of course, everybody had number 8, but we wanted to acknowledge, other players, and we all had a different spin on it, which is what I love. And then a like, and the like is just truly, those ones that, like for me, it was like a Duhame. That guy is probably going to be like my next Tommy. Like I love this guy, but I also feel like there are times that he just got, too heated, and he needed to pump the brakes and get out of the box. But the potential and everything is absolutely there. So I don't feel like, oh, we're going into this next season with, blah, blah, blah. I feel like we're going like, fuck yeah, into this next season with, A, B, C, and D. So, and I think our only negative person that we all agreed on was Eller. And,
Yeah, it's just
um,
disappointing. But I'm happy we got
absolutely,
him out of Pittsburgh. I hope that he just retires now, and
absolutely.
then he could retire as a Cap, and then it's like all is right in the world. And then that would almost be worth this one year if he just retires as a Cap and this is done, right? Like I just
And and I think we all, we're hoping like, wouldn't it be a great story for him to come back? But I'm like, you know what? We were all kind of hoping it would be 2018 Tiger,
But
and
it's
it's
interesting because it's not like we was just a hope and a prayer. Like he was one of Pittsburgh's best players at that point in the season.
yep.
Like so, it wasn't like it was like, oh, we're picking up a washed up asset
Hmm.
like on a hope and a prayer. Like at the time, he was playing well, and yeah, maybe he's just doesn't have as much in the tank per season as he once did, right? Yeah.
Right.
Um, I do want to talk about. I found this post online that I thought was great. It just kind of highlights all of the things that Ovi was able to do this year, and I just kind of wanted to recap it for people. He broke Wayne Gretzky's all-time goals record, most goals ever by a player 39 years or older, highest goals per game in a season since 2010.
Wow.
Finished third in the league in goals despite breaking his leg and missing a month, right? Like, and led the Capitals to the best record in the East.
I mean,
And
that, and to me, that's why I can't be, I really, I can't walk away from this season, ready to like, burn jerseys and be ridiculous like how some fans are. We watched history in the making, and not just with Gretzky, like all exactly everything that you said, and everything he does off the ice, and how he is Gil had a good point yesterday in talking about how he was very hard on himself in the last 2 games, and I think his vibe is very contagious. If he's relaxed and not stressing, and he's laughing and being Ovi on the bench, the other players pick up on that. But when he's pissed at himself, that definitely is contagious. The other players, were overthinking and hence kind of sloppy plays. So I am proud of this team. Carolina outplayed us. I'm not rooting for them. I know I should. That's probably the right sportsmanship thing to do, but
I can't root for Florida though. I really wanted
yeah,
Toronto to move on. I'm just kind of done
yes.
with Florida. I'm just, so and also Ryan, who just resubbed to me, is he's buying my love right there. So I'll root for that team because there's no Florida Panthers who are resubbing. So but welcome on in, Ryan. We're gonna have him on in a few minutes, and but like. I don't know. I have friends from Carolina. I can't. Florida just doesn't need a back-to-back championship year. I don't.
No, and not with Marshawn.
Yeah, not with Marshawn. Yeah,
And
exactly.
and to Chuck, it's like there are definitely players that if I really have to think about it,
And I tap my hat to Carolina. They played their
yeah.
game. They you know what I mean? Like it made us look bad, but it's not all us being bad. Sometimes when a team has stifling defense, they take away what makes the Capitals who they are. It doesn't mean that they suddenly sucked and they fell apart, right? I mean, I think that's the thing. There's like, where are the Capitals that we saw the whole season? I was like, well, if you watch the games against Carolina, they always matched up well.
Yeah.
We didn't dominate any of those games, so it's not like
not this season. I feel like the Capitals had Carolina's number. And it was going to put, Brendan Moore over the top. Like he's like going to explode every time they were playing us. But this season was different. And I feel like they had our number. And you know what? They did. They outplayed us. And hats off to them. Yeah, but to have, I don't know, to really for any of the teams right now, I kind of just don't care. Now that the Jets are out, I'm like, shit. So yeah, but I don't think I can bring myself to pull for to check. Oh, Marshawn, Florida. It's like that's like a trifecta that I just.
That's what I'm saying. You should always pull for the Metro team, in my opinion, unless it's the Penguins or the Rangers, which it's not. And then and then you can do whatever you want, or
there you go.
Philly for that matter. But they're not going to get there for a while. But so. You can do it. I do want to bring C4, and I know, Anna, you don't have very much time left.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
Gil has a really cool video. I did want to kind of play it while you and C4 were on to get our live reactions. I have not watched it, but he promises me that it's just 2 minutes of time. And so I do want to get, because this is Gil's farewell video of that he's been doing these all season long, which has been really fun to be like play producer to Gil's director and be able to and do this sort of fun interactive thing. So we're bringing C4 in for your reaction. I'll introduce C4 more in a minute, but I do want to get this video on, and then I'll Anna give her final goodbyes, and then we'll get our take on some of the other series, as well as I want to get C4 and Ryan's take on the series as well. So with no further ado, here we are.
Of course. Nuggies. Forgot about
I still don't know where your arm is in that.
I haven't a clue. yes, yes.
Aw.
Aww.
Thank you. Aw.
That's awesome.
Yay.
Good
That
job,
was
Gil.
great.
Thank you. But that was awesome. I'm gonna stop our screen share so that way we can all come to the screen here on this window. But thank you, Gail, for doing that. I wanted to get Anna's reaction too, as part of her final thoughts. And but Gail, thank you so much for doing all these videos all year long. It's been a lot of fun. You definitely brought a smile to my face many weeks when we've had down weeks and we've had up weeks. And I appreciate you for continuing on the hardest week of the year, the closing week, which is always a bit of a bummer. But I truly feel really good about our future in a way that even last year, when we got swept, I wasn't quite so sure about. And so, what an incredible year, and so happy that the four of us have gotten to do this together week in and week out. And other stars have come in from Janaea, and we got Ryan's coming up in a few minutes, and we've gotten people from Winnipeg and all over, Toronto fans. So. It's been really fun. But Anna, I'll let you give your thoughts on that, and then also whatever your final thoughts are before we let you go.
Yeah, that was just just a little bit of Gil's talent that we all adore.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I know I give him a hard time for not laughing at his jokes, and I'm not going to promise I'm going to, but I appreciate it. He's amazing, and I wouldn't be on this for almost 10 years or 10 seasons now. Oh my gosh, or 9 seasons. It's incredible. You guys are all amazing, and I look forward to seeing you all in October.
I know.
It's just gonna be like, let's do it. Let's all over again. And again, I don't have anything negative to say about the season because I thought the boys were just awesome. It just wasn't
Wasn't their year, and that
it
happens.
wasn't their year, and it happens. And we got
31 teams
further.
won't be their year. People forget
Exactly.
that.
They got
Well,
further.
it's like I
We
said in
What-
somewhere, we were basically told y'all aren't going to come anywhere near the playoffs, and
Yeah.
we're just like, hold my beer, and here we are.
100%.
So-
Hold my beer, and then Canadians, double fisted hold my beers.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you
it was great, and it was we certainly had our ups and downs, but I think we are going to continue to love this team as much as we do come the fall.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, so
fun.
have a great rest of the show. Robbie, thank you for everything. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you for doing this for me, and and I think it's 7 seasons now that we've done this together, and so it's pretty crazy. And
It is. So I'm looking forward to,
the next
maybe
one's gonna be great. I'm
season
excited
8.
about that one, because I think Ovechkin's going to do some pretty cool things. If it is his farewell tour or whenever that happens, we'll continue to cover it until that moment. But
Agreed.
one last thing I wanted to talk about before I let you go. I was wearing a special shirt and I hadn't gotten to mention it.
Yeah.
It's for one of these players, and I have to say goodbye to him one last time, because
Oh yeah.
I just, this is the last time I get to wear this where he's still a member of the
I
Capitals.
know.
Right.
It's
And
hard.
so-
It's like absolutely crazy to think it's going to be 19 and then 77 and
Yeah. And they're gone. And I wanted, before we wrapped it up, just because he, maybe even above Ovechkin, is my favorite Capital of all time, just because I think without a Nicholas Backstrom, Ovechkin never gets to this. Ovechkin's done great things since Backstrom has left, and there's all the credit to him, but he set him up for so much success, and
and that was
Yeah.
and that friendship and brotherhood, oh my gosh, and that's why I think when he did break Gretzky's record, that the only person he wanted to see and talk to was Backstrom, and that just tells you how deep that friendship is and how much respect they have for each other. So 19 going back to Sweden is like, oof.
I know. I just can't believe he's going to play.
I know.
That's a remarkable thing. But I think it was the right call for him not to play for us. Give him a couple of years to recuperate, get the final part of his contract, still get to go around with the team, be a part of this moment with Ovechkin, and now he can. Because I actually think if he hadn't broken the record this year, he may have deferred one more year to be around this area until he did it. I think he was staying around until that moment, and so
much love.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to put that out there and get your thoughts on it before we let you go. But an incredible season, one we will remember forever, the 50th season, and I'm so happy I got to cover it with all you guys. But and I hope you have a great rest of your evening, and we'll continue the coverage and with the rest of the gang.
Definitely. Have a great rest of the episode. Cheryl-Ann, thank you for everything. I appreciate you. And Gil, I'll talk to you soon.
Always happy to fill in as needed, but I tell you, they are some seriously big shoes to fill. So
I wish. I know, Gil's. But
yeah, between Gil and Robbie, they're like the biggest, but you're up there with them, and because you've been doing this a lot longer than I have. So
appreciate all of you guys, and look forward to a season let's 8. That's going to be our number. So let's do it. So, but no, Gil, all kidding aside, I'll talk to you soon.
Oh yeah. Thanks, Parker.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye, guys.
Good night, Anna.
All right, so thank you. I'm going to do the, we already had DC People's Champ is back from dinner and doing the Anna command himself. So thank you, Champ. Thank you for the raid earlier. Thank you for the resub earlier. I know you were doing a stream. I hope that your stream went well for the podcast. And so, always follow Champ over at the No Spots Pod over on Twitch as well. But welcome on in, C4. I did want to get your take on the last game. We kind of broke down the one goal and the one goal that was not, and then obviously the victory for Carolina. But I just felt like Carolina's stifling defense, and they just had a really good system, and I think that we didn't make changes quite soon enough, possibly in this series, and it kind of, we had one of our best games as the last game, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah, truth be told, I was at track meet. It was the regional meet for my high school track team, so it was kind of a no-brainer. I had to be there. So, but Marcus was still at the game. He had another friend went with him. But
you got to go with him for the good luck, so
I was supposed to go. The track meet was supposed to be Tuesday and Wednesday, but it was raining so badly on Tuesday they shifted it to Wednesday and Thursday.
That sucks.
So
our season.
But I mean, the last 2 games I was at a track meet, we won, so I was really hopeful for this one. But it's kind of funny looking back on it and looking at highlights and listening to the conversations and reading all the stuff on Facebook. It's almost like the boys kind of hit a wall. It was like the harder they tried, and I see it all the time in other sports, track, football, baseball. It's almost like they hit a wall. Then the harder they tried, the less they could get done. You know what I mean? They were trying to shoot the puck. They were trying to get the things going, but it was literally like they hit a wall because we were doing so great up until we got to Carolina. And now, with all due respect, Carolina did, in fact, outplay us in a couple of those games, and they played very well, and they played us very hard. But it seemed the harder we tried, the less we were able to do. Not to take anything out from the rest of the season, they were where they got where they were not supposed to be. And they worked hard to get there. And I cannot be more proud of these guys. And I mean, I just sent this picture to the group. I mean, this is my phone lock screen. Caps win, lose, tie, fan till I die. So, I mean, I am so stinking proud of these guys. And I've told kids that have hit walls in a race, leave it on the track. You left it on the track. You did the best you could. And at the end of the day, this happened. And I think that's what the boys did. They left it on the ice. They played as hard as they could. They did the best they could. And they got further than anybody, I think even themselves, thought they were going to get. So they have absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. No throwing and burning jerseys like Anna said, like the Toronto fans. I get the frustration. This is we have not made it out of the first round.
Toronto's a different situation.
But we haven't made it out of the first round since 2018.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? But that doesn't, and yes, it's frustrating. It's heartbreaking. It's, but damn, I'm proud of these guys.
Yeah.
I just can't.
This
not
is the
be.
most proud I've been of a Caps team since the championship. You know, like
Mhm.
I felt that the brotherhood, the post game locker, the coach I feel is right
Yeah.
now. Like, you know,
Yeah.
there's a system,
And-
there's a direction.
Right. And they never gave up. Even they did not ever give up. They just kind of hit that wall. And they just couldn't get over it. And that happens. But
It reminds me of the
looking
Aggies. You know, Liz is a went to Texas A&M, and they always
Mhm.
they don't lose, they just run out of time. And in
Yeah,
some ways, that kind of feels like their season just kind of ran out of time. Like
right.
it didn't feel like I felt like they were trying, but I always felt like they were running in quicksand. They were like overthinking, and they were just
Yeah, they
I
hit
mean,
that
they were
wall
stuck.
and
They
they're
couldn't.
doing everything they can to get over, around, under, through, and the more they try to do that, the worse it gets. But looking at what we've got coming up in the pipeline next year, we've got, you know, um, Leonard will be obviously full time with the team. Chesley may or may not be coming up next year. He may spend some time in Hershey before he comes up. Um, Cole Hudson will be uh, in the pipeline. I believe Crystal is now officially with Hershey. Yes, did I see that?
With the team, yes. I don't know if they're going to make him a black ace or let him play. I'm not sure,
Well, he
but
was Black Ace last year
okay. Well, he is
because
probably
he is 20 years old this year, so
yeah,
he
if he's
can
20,
play.
yeah, he's 20 years old, so he's done with his junior career.
Yeah, there's an expectation he's going to play tomorrow, and
Yeah,
this is not a
that'll be
Crystal
nice.
jersey. This is a Bears jersey. Marcus and I are going to the game tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Wednesday. Sorry, I'm getting my days confused. On Wednesday, there is an expectation that he will play. But you look at all these players we've got coming up, plus, I mean, my main concern in the future, probably in the next 3 to 4 years, because how long have we signed? Logan's been signed for how much longer?
I think pretty sure his deal was 5 years.
He was a 5-year deal. Okay. And Lindgren still has how many years left?
3 years.
3 years. So in the next 3 years, either Lindgren's going to walk, or we're going to need to replace him, or he may end up, I mean, I don't wish him ill at all. I really think he is a fantastic goalie, and I would love to see him stay. But I think the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to have to really make sure we have a goalie ready to come in to replace these guys. So, and I believe Gil, you and Marcus have talked about in the upcoming draft, looking at a goalie and getting a goalie this year, so that when those guys are ready to retire, or if they start sliding off, we have someone to bring in that can actually step in and replace them. Because I don't think Shepard or Stevenson are it, to be honest.
No.
But it's interesting though because they've done well at the minor league level. They just whenever they've been called up, they just haven't quite made that jump. And
right, and some guys don't.
Yeah,
some guys just don't, for whatever reason.
It's interesting. Hershey's going for a three-peat for people that don't know.
Yeah,
and it's a big deal.
yeah. Well, they're facing elimination tomorrow night, or Wednesday night, so we'll see.
Oh yeah, well we need your luck in the building, and if they're able to advance, I'll definitely have to get you back on C4. I know that last year we got a Bears report from you.
Yeah, sure.
Appreciated, and I'm gonna bring in Ryan so that way we can have his take now on what are your thoughts, Ryan, on what happened in this series? Did you think that the Caps were playing badly, or do you think it was just the Canes did well within their system?
Well, thanks for having me. It's interesting. Like, there are some things that, I think the main narrative, I guess, that kind of sums up my thoughts is that the Hurricanes have not been forced to change the way that they play. And so that was kind of the big thing. The Capitals really, I think, in most of these games, in the first period, at the start of the games, they were the stronger team. And it kind of came down to Anderson making enough saves at the start to keep the Capitals from building momentum. I I felt like just about every game in the series, the Capitals had a better start to the game. But the scoreboard didn't reflect that because Anderson has continued to be really steady and really solid. And from a Hurricanes fan's perspective, the biggest questions going into the playoffs have been, what's the goaltending going to look like? Because Freddie has dealt with injuries kind of famously. And then Kochetkov is always a wild card. He's kind of crazy out there. You never know what you're going to get from him. The second thing is usually the power play. There's always been a struggle with the power play. And the third thing I would say is, there we go. Sorry, my audio got really low for a second there. Yeah, the second thing is the power play. They have kind of struggled on the power play of the past, but it hasn't been the problem in the playoffs. And then the third is, everybody says, and fans kind of say this too, is they don't have that elite goal scorer. Well, I would say that they didn't. But they have Andrei Svechnikov, who scored a goal in the last 3 games of this series. He has 8 goals in 10 games. I think he's finally healthy and has taken his lumps, if you will, has had to learn some hard lessons about, how to play and how to handle failure. And I think that's the team as a whole. I forget, somebody had said something earlier about how, they're kind of hoping that, Rod and all the players on the bench would get kind of riled up and upset. And I just haven't seen that from them at all this year in any situation. Like, even when they were down 3-0 to New Jersey in Game 5 on home ice, and the first period down 3-0, that's a disaster, right? But they pushed back, and they came back, tied it up 3-3. New Jersey went ahead 4-3, and you're thinking, uh-oh, what's going to happen now? But then they tie it 4-4, win the game in overtime, 5-4. So this team, I think, because of playoff failures in the past, they kind of learned some hard lessons, and they've also made some acquisitions and moved players around that maybe didn't have 100% buy-in to the way that the Hurricanes want to play, the way that Rod wants them to play. And Rod, too, has learned his lessons as far as, what I guess needs to happen in a playoff series in order to win. So it's kind of, especially for Rod, I feel like it's been an evolution for him this year in particular. He's done some things a little bit differently, it seems like, in terms of how he manages, I guess, just different personnel coming in and out, and not being so stubborn with always playing the veteran guys. He's done a better job of kind of moving players in and out of the lineup as needed. So yeah, that's kind of...
I've seen a huge evolution in his game plan. I just think that, but they still have, his grittiness at heart, where I feel like the players take on a lot of that. And so it's been interesting to watch the evolution of Carolina. And also your goalie, talk about taking lumps. He, was a part of a lot of those Toronto failures, and, people thought he would never get past the second round. So, this is obviously a really big moment for him. I just hope he can keep it up, right? Because it's a long grind. You're only, at this point, only halfway through,
right.
Which is crazy to think about it that way. And that's such a challenge to be able to reset and know that you need to, because for me, he's going to be the difference maker in the series. If he can keep it up, you guys have a chance against Florida. If not, Florida's got so much firepower. I just don't think you're not going to compete with them in a high scoring game. So you kind of have, in my mind, your best shot is to win a 3-2, a 2-1 game and try to keep it relatively low scoring.
Yeah, and I think the team plays differently in front of him because, again, he's gotten really good, especially this year, at rebound control. So shots head on, he's absorbing. Shots that are out to the side, he's kicking out and he's kicking them to the corner where you can't get a rebound. I don't know how many rebound chances the Capitals had, but it wasn't many, So that's been a big part of his play that really kind of suits the Hurricanes. It allows them to be a little bit more aggressive, and closer proximity, whereas with Kochetkov, he doesn't really do the rebound control very well. So they've got to be almost like cheating a little bit towards the net instead of like, fighting off the players, try and like fight off a rebound, So so it's like two different games when they don't have Freddie. So yeah, I would never have expected him to still be like statistical leader in the playoffs right now, like in all categories, which is kind of crazy. I mean, he's a good goalie, but yeah, I didn't expect that when you consider some of the names we have, like Bobrovsky. We know about Hellebuck's troubles, but I mean, he's pretty much like still a shoe-in for the Vezina because of his regular season and everything. So yeah, I mean, I feel like that's been the biggest difference has been him, Freddie Anderson, and it seems like Svechnikov has been that goal scorer for the Hurricanes. Is really important. Sebastian Aho is a guy that every player at this level is super competitive, but like Aho, he doesn't even want to lose at like tiddlywinks. Like he hates losing so much, and it can cause him to get a little bit off his game sometimes when he's the guy and like he's expected to score. But being on a line with Svechnikov, where he's still expected to score, but I think it's a lot easier when you're passing it off to a guy who's scoring and you feel like you're contributing offensively in that way, because he's always going to contribute defensively. He's really persistent and very consistent with his defensive play, but offensively he can kind of be in and out.
That top line was phenomenal the whole series. I just felt like whenever they were on the ice, they were just tilting it, heavy in their way. And I think that, the games where we got second change, I thought we could manage it a little bit better. But the ones in Carolina, I thought that they were, too much for us. And being peppered with shots.
Yeah, and I this is kind of off topic, but we were talking about Ovechkin breaking the goal record earlier, I'm pretty sure from what I remember, I'm sure you guys have probably reviewed it more than I have, but from what I remember, I believe the first thing he said is, there have been so many people who have been a part of this to lead up to this moment, and I have to thank my teammates. I couldn't do it without you guys.
Yeah.
And as simple and obvious a sentiment as that is, I believe I saw LeBron James celebrate a milestone in a very different way.
Right.
Where it was mostly, I had to go through this and I never thought I could do this and, blah, blah, blah. And was like, okay, where's the we?
Right.
Like,
but a lot easier for Ovechkin to be the we because it's always been a capital, right? So it's all been very much one team where LeBron,
he's
got teammates across a lot of teams, and I won, and he's always chased championships. And that's one of the things I love about Ovechkin is sure, Ovi could have probably chased more championships. There's definitely a world where that could have happened, but he chose to stick with DC, show dedication and love to a city and to his teammates. And if he only ever gets one championship, he could be, I don't know if happy with that, but like satisfied enough, And so that says a lot about somebody's character, that they're not just going to jump to super teams. And I know basketball is a little different in that way than hockey because of crazy bounces, but we've definitely seen super teams get created, a la I guess the Red Wings back in the 90s, but then you've had other Chicago teams, in the past that have been pretty dangerous as well. So, it's interesting. But Gil, what are some of your thoughts on this upcoming series between the Cats and the Canes?
Well, I hate to throw a dynamic that is a little too obvious, but the first thing that comes to my mind is, good Lord, Florida has played a hell of a lot of hockey in the last 2.5 years. So you have to start to wonder, when the hell is the fatigue factor going to start to hit them? When are they going to hit that wall? When are they going to start to get tired? Because it's not like they have all young guys. It's not like they have a team that hasn't had its share of injury problems. They limped through this year, same as most teams did. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Other than that, It's hard, but I think what everybody looking at this series needs to do is not think of last year. Last year, there was a sweep. I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen this year. I think they're a lot closer. There's a lot more level playing field this year than there was last year.
And Carolina's the home team this time. So, I mean,
yeah.
talk about
That's true, too.
dynamic,
That makes
and they're so good at home. So, I mean, having
Yeah.
the first two, I think that if they can take the first two games at home, that puts a lot of pressure. Unlike Toronto, where there's that whole, curse of them. So, like, being up 2-0 didn't really help them. I really feel like if Carolina can come up 2-0 at home, that will put a lot of pressure on Florida.
Yeah, Carolina is very hard to beat at home. And, we've talked about it before. I was nervous about going into Carolina for those two games, especially being tied at 1. I knew it was going to be very, very hard to come back from that because now Carolina's got the momentum. And even though we're back on home ice, they've won two in a row at home. They're bringing that momentum into DC now. And so, yeah, it's going to be a fun series to watch. I think it's going to be really fun to watch. I don't know who will prevail. It's going to go more. It's definitely not going to be a sweep. I predict at least 6 games for sure. But it's going to be a fun one to watch.
It's an interesting dynamic, just thinking through the two different teams and their styles. They're just so dynamically different. So to talk to what Ryan was saying before, like who can impose their will be, if it can be that shutdown defensive slog. I think Carolina's got a really good chance of it. If it becomes this high, fast paced, scoring thing, I think that becomes a lot more difficult. Just because I think Florida has more secondary scoring, and. So it'll just be interesting to see, to Gil's point of how tired are they, or do some of these new people that they've come interject some of that energy into it, and what does Florida do from behind? I just can't believe that series, that Toronto-Florida one, where Toronto gets smoked at home with an opportunity to go up 3-2, and you're like, oh, this season is over. They're going out to Florida. There's just no way, and then Florida just flops. And just to give Toronto the ultimate choke, right? And then Toronto, I thought the game 5 was bad, but I feel like game 7 may have been worse. And I was watching Steve Dangle, and he was saying that this is their worst game 7 loss that they ever had. And I'm like, that says something because they've got a lot of them. So like it was an interesting series. But to what Gil was saying is, they had to fight so hard, get to a game 7. They've been fighting through this slog where I feel like Carolina had a little bit more of an easier road in some ways. And, not to say that we're an easy out, but like, I definitely don't.
But they've certainly played a lot less hockey.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think there really is something to the wear and the tear, like Gil was saying, as far as like how many games you have to play. It's kind of like, in a way, that should be a sense of urgency. It's like, a race to 4 is kind of important in those early rounds so that you don't wear yourself out, because each game is going to add up. And especially in this situation, Gil pointed out very succinctly, like Carolina gets, like, they've been off since oh my gosh, the past week has been crazy.
Thursday.
They've been off since Thursday. Meanwhile, Florida has to fly, I'm not sure if they're even going to stop in Florida, they might just fly straight into Raleigh. Like, they might not even go home. I don't know if they did or not. They might have, but they're going to have to go right back to North Carolina if they go.
There's also rink rust. So it's like, it's a two-edged, like I've seen it go both ways in all sports, where like sometimes the team that's just come after like this high emotional game 7 has some momentum versus like a team that's been off. So it's just hard to, it depends on how much like of the wear that actually happened in the game 7 versus the adrenaline pushing them through. So it's,
I know Kachuk's playing through something. He hasn't been quite himself, and if you remember, before the playoffs started, he was out, and then he suddenly played in the last game because the NHL instituted a new rule that like you have to play in the last game, I guess, if you want to play in game 1 of the playoffs. So anyway, he's been he hasn't been like as as big of a
Dangerous.
factor, as dangerous exactly as he's been in the past. So this could be interesting to watch. Hurricanes had an issue with one of their defensemen getting injured. Don't know what that's about, but he didn't skate this morning, Jalen Chatfield. So it's probably not going to be a Nikishin. They have another guy, Scott Morrow, that has been on their AHL team and has played more games, more NHL games. Throwing Nikishin in there was he's exciting, but he I think he was the one that gave up the puck that led to that goal that got called back for offsides. So he's still got a bit to figure out to play.
Right, real quickly, I want to get your thought on offsides, real quick, because it's not Capital's perspective. Do you think there should be a time limit of how long you get to review these things before, like calling a timeout to check it to then do that? And then the other question is there a certain amount of game time that goes on in where it's in the zone for a certain length of time where it's no longer like let's rewind it 30 seconds or a minute?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it used to be if the referees missed it, they missed it, I kind of think if the play is already stopped for a goal, it doesn't really matter how far back you review it. Like the play is already dead anyway. Where it kind of can get frustrating actually sometimes is when it goes the other way. It's like a referee gets a quick whistle and you're like, no, this was, this one, and they can't change it, So I kind of prefer that to the alternative of like, we really had a chance to score and the officials blew the whistle early. It's kind of almost like I think there may have been an inkling that, oh, this was offsides, but they were slow to the whistle and they let it play out. So I don't know. I guess. Yeah, I've always kind of been on the side of like if play is dead and play is stopped, like sure, like go back and review whatever. I think if you put a time limit on it, it might get too complicated in terms of let's watch the clock and go back, because I don't know what the solution would be otherwise. I think it's you either have no limit or you don't review it at all. I think those are really the only two options you've got.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand that. I see it multiple ways. I hate that like the play had
You see a
continued
skilled play.
yeah. The play had continued for a while. Like it's different than if it's off the rush and you're offsides and they miss it and it was 5 seconds before. Then like play developed. Carolina had a few chances to get it out. It didn't, and then what I mean. Like it's just it's like not the intent of that rule. Like I just. Yeah, so that's but I understand it from both points of view. Like,
I think I guess I sympathize a little bit because I mean goalie interference has always been my my frustration, and I think
it's all of ours.
No one knows what it is. Like,
I've just always wanted to err on the side of protecting the goalies. It's just like it's almost like. This is silly, like, I think I'm the only person who thinks this way, so you guys can tell me if I'm just being completely crazy, but I kind of feel like in some ways, seeing the way that NHL goaltenders get treated right now discourages other players from wanting to play goalie that are, like, coming up. I don't know, but it's kind of bad. Like, I mean, what happened to Stallers was completely unacceptable, and, the fact that nothing came from that, there's no crackdown even after the fact, it's just wrong.
I agree. You shouldn't get runs at goalies. Like, they should be protected.
So I honestly, I just feel like throw the book at these guys until they stop doing it. And it goes for every team. Like, it's just like, I would be, because I know people say, oh, there's going to be so many whistles and it's going to ruin the game. But in my opinion, it's kind of like, there will be whistles for like the first month that it's instituted, but after that, players will figure out, oh, this is the line, and I actually can't go across it, and they'll play their way around it. Like they'll figure it out. Like they're professionals. They can control themselves, and they can figure out where the line is. And I think that line just needs to be pushed back like very aggressively to kind of prevent this stuff from happening, because it just sucks to see. I mean, that's another side of this thing that people aren't talking about is the Leafs were up 2-0 with Stollers, and then he goes down in game 3 where the Panthers come back.
Yeah.
So like, who knows Stollers, but anyway, but yeah, so who knows if that could have been played out differently. And obviously
Gil, what is your take? I want to get Gil's take to see if you are crazy. Like, Gil, what are your thoughts on goaltender protection?
Well, I really think there's a very, very simple standard that can be applied, and I thought was the standard, and then they went away from it for some reason. But here's what I think. Okay, so skater versus goalie contact and interaction. All right. I always understood it ever since the '99 final, where there was a big controversy where Brett Hull's foot was in the crease when he scored the goal. I always thought, okay, if the puck is in the crease and the goalie has not frozen it, you are free to go into the crease, go after the puck, get yourself a scoring chance. As long as you don't do anything to create contact with the goalie or interfere with his perspective, his job of trying to stop that puck, you're fine. I don't understand. To me, that's cut and dry. Why don't they use that as the standard? You make contact with the goalie, purpose or whether on purpose or on accident, no bueno. You blow the play dead, call the penalty, do whatever it is. But that's the line, and the line is just that line to me that's the problem. That's where the problem begins and ends. They've blurred that line so badly that now nobody knows what goaltender interference is, what constitutes it. It's drawn out in the rules, but that to me is the standard. It's
and now it's who's initiating the contact, but it's like that's such an arbitrary gray area.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, and we all want to see goals, and it's based on creating that scoring chance. But you've also got to let the goaltender do his job. And if he can't, because of contact or whatever, you got to call it. You got to do something. So I just don't understand why that standard is not the one that's applied, and all this murkiness has been created because of that.
Yeah. All right, real quickly, because I know that our time is limited, I do want to get your guys' thoughts on the Western Conference final, just real quickly on that end. It's an interesting matchup for sure. Gil, I'll let you take your first crack at it. I'm hoping for Edmonton personally, just because our friend Adrian, I may have him back on to give an Oilers thoughts if they're able to do well in the next round. But Gil, what is your take on that series?
I'm kind of pulling for Edmonton because I hate Dallas because I've got quite a bit of relatives down there who always give me the business when the Stars do well, and I just don't like that team in particular. I've always thought they're overrated. I don't know how. Honestly, I really don't know how they've gotten this far. They really, okay, Rantanen's playing out of his mind. Fine. And Ottinger's decided to, be consistent for once, I guess. But I just don't like that team. I have no particular love for Edmonton, but I think on paper they're definitely the better team. So that's just how I see it. Maybe oversimplified, but that's how I see it.
It'd be crazy if it was Edmonton and Carolina in the finals again, and Adrian would have
just like 2004 or 5 or the year right after the lockout.
Right after the lockout.
That was a crazy series.
Yeah.
It's one of the most fun series to watch ever.
Yeah.
That was
but don't ask Adrian. He doesn't think it was fun because of his goal. I'll hear for that forever. But yeah, C4, what is your thoughts on that series?
I'm kind of pulling for Edmonton. I don't have any particular. I don't have a particular dog in that fight. I'm only rooting for Edmonton because I'd like to see a Canadian team win the cup just so Gary Bettman loses his ever-loving mind. Um,
I feel so bad for that country. I
but
do feel like,
but watching Edmonton last year and watching how hard they played and how they gelled at the right time and were able to fight through and keep going, even though they ultimately lost to Florida at the end. In the end, I don't want to see an Edmonton Florida rematch, to be clear. I would much rather see Edmonton Carolina. But yeah, I'm pulling for Edmonton. I think, like Gil said, on the paper, yeah, they are the better team. Basically for Dallas, all we've heard is Rantanen and Ottinger. So, and Edmonton's just quietly doing their thing. So
that'd be weird.
Sometimes it's the quiet ones you got to watch out for. So I think they're gonna give Dallas a run. I think I'd like to see him pull it out. I'd like to see Edmonton in the final.
Yeah. Ryan, what is your thoughts on Mikko Rantanen?
It's so like with Mikko, I mean, I'm not invested in like I don't know what happens with him necessarily. The worst thing is just like the way that everybody else talks about it, because that situation, I saw those games when it was getting near the trade deadline, and especially his last game, it was like he was like gliding out there, like he wasn't even moving his feet when he was skating. It was crazy bad. Like I was like, what are you doing?
It's just so wild.
So anyway, so like there was I think obviously at the beginning there was a genuine effort to get him re-signed. I think he put in a genuine effort at the beginning to actually try to fit in with the team, but it just wasn't working right. And then he started to get a little frustrated, and and also it was ultimately, from what I've seen, and this is kind of gossip and speculation a little bit, but I kind of think this makes the most sense, is that he kind of was approached by management in Colorado about like, we're thinking about trading you to Carolina or whatever. And he was like, oh yeah, sure. Like, like kind of calling their bluff in a way. Like, I'd be willing to do that, but I don't think he really wanted to be traded. I think he just thought he would still be able to hang on and work on negotiating with them. So anyway, so he didn't get his choice, bluff,
so to speak,
of where he wanted to go. And as far as Dallas goes overall, like, I mean, I don't know. I have a hard time feeling they're underrated just because they've been in this position so many times, getting to be the last four teams. I think it was in the bubble hockey tournament during COVID where they got to the final and faced Tampa Bay. So they've been kind of knocking at the door for a while too. I think Edmonton, though, when you talk about a team that's taken its lumps, I mean, I said this last year and people didn't really think much of it, but they were at the bottom of the league after the new year. They were like at the bottom of the standings, number 30 or 32. They were at the very bottom. And then they came all the way back to make the playoffs, and I was kind of like, a team like that, it's like kind of got that level of belief in each other. Like, for them to come back from that says a lot about them. And then sure enough, came all the way back, went down 3-0 to Florida, won 3 straight games to force a Game 7. So that's a team that you can never count out either. So,
nobody gave them enough credit for Hart last year. They really didn't.
So, I don't know. I kind of do it. Yeah, it's so hard to say. I do still kind of lean towards this, like, I mean, I told Robbie off stream, I've like leaned towards like a Florida and Edmonton rematch. I told you that before we knew the Capitals were going to be playing the Hurricanes, before that was even finalized yet. I was like, I don't know, we might be headed for this, because I was watching, Florida looked great in their first round, and Edmonton, of course, did the whole reversal on LA. That was just crazy to watch, because LA looked in control after those first two games. So, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously anything can happen, and I think the most fun for me would be obviously Carolina, but Carolina and Edmonton would probably be the most fun, to kind of, in a way, play the heel to Canada. As much as I would be as much as I would be happy for Canada to win, sometimes it's kind of fun to be the heel, you know.
That would actually be, on paper at least, the most interesting series, because you have literally the polar opposites in terms of style.
Yeah.
So it'd be very, very fun to see how that shakes out and how the two coaches strategize and adjust to each other over however many games.
Yeah, they're gonna try to put Jacob Slavin on the ice as many times as possible, especially against McDavid. I mean, when Team Canada won against Team USA at the Four Nations, I was like, and McDavid got the game winner. I was like, oh, look who's not on the ice, Jacob Slavin.
Right.
That's a coincidence.
Probably the one team that can keep up with him.
Yeah. His speed is incredible, and obviously Draisaitl is an out of this world talent too. It's an embarrassment of riches. So, but we'll see. I'm really excited to see how Svechnikov responds in the biggest stage now, because I don't think and actually, Gil, it was technically 2 years ago when Florida played Carolina. Last year Florida went against the Rangers, who beat Carolina.
That's right.
That's right.
They almost had.
That's right. Well,
I had 3 years in a row, but
I was stunned when they got swept, because that year they were my pick to win it all.
Yeah.
So that was a stunner, and I've tried very hard to forget about that, because I have no idea how they pulled that off. And then last year I think you guys were in it up until the very end, and then I think you guys only lost that series because Anderson decided to fall apart.
Yeah.
Well,
he did. Yeah.
He hasn't fallen apart, and if he keeps it together, I think you guys got a good chance this series.
Got to keep Bennett out of the crease. Got to keep Bennett out of there.
Yeah.
So Ryan, one little news and note that I want to put out here. Next week, since it's Memorial Day, I'm not going to be doing a podcast on Monday. Also, you would have Game 4 on that Monday to watch. But if you would like to come back next week on a Tuesday, because I will be doing my show on a Tuesday, and recap what your thoughts are on the series, you are obviously very welcome. So no pressure right now, something to think about, but I just wanted everyone to know that the show will be on Tuesday regardless, but you are always welcome to give your take on the series at that point.
If you want to have me, I'm happy to talk. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to talk, especially, you get people who, you guys have just very different experiences from mine, rooting for the Capitals, and just your different experiences with the sport in general. So, so it's always fun. I enjoy it, and I'm glad you guys.
I wouldn't have you on,
don't
even
take it too hard.
Right, exactly. No, we can have fun with it, because I think it was a very respectable series. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't just sort of bad blood. There wasn't, it didn't feel like this, horrifying acts of violence, or there's
no cheap shots, not too much, not all the too much after the whistle crap. Virtually none of that. The series.
The games I did see were very well played games, very respectful, very not a whole lot of chirping. I mean, it gets scuffly, but it it got a little chirpy, but it didn't, not anything like out of the ordinary.
There's no licking from a Brad Marchand.
I thought
oh god, no.
I thought actually it was kind of really funny, and just when Wilson took Aho's mouth guard, I was like, what is going on here? I didn't even understand. And the reaction of Aho is really funny too. He just kind of looked at it, he's like, Hmm?
Wait, what? How did you get that?
Because
Okay.
he is, if you watch, like I watch, especially because I've watched him so much, he always is like kind of chewing on his mouth guard when he's not like actually skating. He's just kind of like it's so annoying. Like it
Yeah.
is kind of a funny habit that he has. And so I was like, okay, I'll give you that one, Tom. That was pretty funny.
It's pretty great. But yeah, so next week I'll definitely can have you and maybe even see if Adrian wants to come on and talk about his Oilers as well. And although the Oilers will be playing that night, so he may not want to give a live reaction.
Last question. This is a little, I don't know, but I've been thinking about this and been wanting to talk about this with more people. But I understand that, the whole Scheifele situation, was a hard thing for everybody to handle, especially considering like he got the news that morning and then had to play or, decide who's going to play in the game that night. But I just felt like, man, whoever was producing the broadcast knew he was going to be in the penalty box, and should have given the direction of like, hey, if they score, let's keep the focus on Dallas for a moment until he's with somebody else. Like, I just felt that was like a really, I understand that was a story, but I just felt like like within 10 seconds they cut to him like, hanging his head in the penalty box. I'm just like, give the man like a moment to like kind of feel what he needs to feel before you cut over to him. Like I appreciated the handshake line was awesome. And getting to see that was great. And then we also got to see, thankfully, like his teammate, captain, I should know the captain of the Jets, but now I'm forgetting his name. Lowry came over, and kind of consoled him, and that was good to see. But like whoever's producing that, it's just like, couldn't you wait? Like, couldn't there have been some foresight there? It wasn't really a huge surprise that they scored on that, on that moment, and you already had the camera trained on him anyway, like, so like you knew it was coming. I don't know. What did you guys think? You just think it's all, he agreed to come to the game, and I mean I can understand that perspective too. Like he agreed to be there and be in the public light, so But I don't know. What did you guys think about that? I don't know if you saw it, but
I didn't see it live, so I guess it has a very different impact, in that moment. I was kind of watching that game a little bit, but I was also, I'm not gonna lie, I fell asleep as it went to overtime, and I knew I was going to. My wife was texting me, and I was like, "There's no way I make it through this 17-minute intermission," because I was just laying literally right here on the couch, and so I didn't make it, and then I woke up to then watch it later. So I guess my opinion on it is a little bit different because of that. Gil, were you able to stay awake?
I was watching, and I'm disappointed but not surprised. When you're in the business of TV coverage, especially with sports, you are going to play up the drama as much as you can, and not that the Stanley Cup playoffs don't already have that dramatic effect of 16 teams, trying to find another gear when they've already played 80 plus games, negotiating with their bodies, that as if that isn't bad enough, and dealing with this kind of thing ratchets it up. So no, I'm not surprised that they did that. The TV coverage did that. But yes, I am a little disappointed. It's kind of like, I'll throw in a Lord of the Rings reference when Gandalf seemingly dies when he falls off the bridge at Khazad-dûm, and the Aragorn is pushing them to go, and Boromir's like, "Give them a moment, for pity's sake." Let them rest, let them process their grief, and so yeah, I'm totally with you, Ryan.
Champ, I'll always find time for you. Champ is like, his time always gets cut because of hockey. But I The timing of that comment with what we're talking about is hilarious.
But it's true.
It's true. It is true. It is true. You're playing the part of the heel now, so yeah, I see. You know, but it's really funny. But it's a good segue. That I think that we probably.
It's my fault.
It's
usually my fault.
Everybody hates me. That's why I don't get a lot of time. So I'll be the heel. I'll be that.
Oh man.
I'll be that.
Oh man. That was like a shot to the heart.
There you go. No, it's fine. It's fine. We'll find the time. We'll find the time. But that's what's great about not being a part of a network is we could just go for another hour. So but Ryan, I really do appreciate the time and giving us the thing. Coming into the Lion's Den on the Capitals podcast is not something that a lot of people would necessarily do, and I appreciate that you come in with humility and not too much bravado. And but it's definitely fun, and I look forward to talking about the next round with you.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks everybody. It's been fun, and yeah, there's gonna be. We'll see how soon the Hurricanes join you, either at the golf course or hopefully that's. I mean, honestly, the main thing I'm hoping for is just no crazy bad injuries. I just can't handle hockey is a rough game, so I get it, but can we not make it unnecessarily rough with cheap shots and stuff? That would be good. So
a lot to ask for when there's a Kachuk on the team. So.
I know, yes.
And a Marchand, so
and a Bennett,
right?
Yeah.
So good luck on that.
Yeah. So anyway, so I'm really I was rooting heavily for Toronto, really for that, because honestly, there's parts of that team that can be really dangerous. But yeah, so. But we gotta play those games, and we're gonna give it our best. Every team's gotta go out there and rise to the occasion, right? So we'll see. Yeah. We'll see how what the mood is like next next Tuesday after we played 4.
Yeah, 4 games.
Already be 4 by next Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll know a lot about that. Seriously.
Yeah. All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Ryan. C4, I want to get your final thoughts before we let you go tonight.
Like I said earlier, couldn't be happier with the boys this season. It's, frustrating that it ended the way it did, but, they did all they could. They put it all out on the ice. They left it there. I cannot wait to see how we do next season. We've got so much coming up in the pipeline. I think we're going to be even better next year in a lot of ways. Will we raise the cup next year? We might get a little closer. We still have some growing to do. We still have some things to I don't want to say fix, because there's nothing really broken, but adjust, maybe tweak.
Fine
tune. Is the word I'm looking for. Fine tune. There we go. Thank you.
All right, I got one question for you, C4, though. Do you think that next year's Ovi's last year with the Capitals or not? To end on a challenging question, right?
Yeah, I kind of think he does, unless.
It's hard because I think he would want to have a swan song where he visits each one for the last time and they play it up, but he's also not that guy. And if he has a good season, he said he would do another one. So it's a tough situation, right? Because it's
I think it's going to depend on how close we get to the cup next year. If we get this close next year.
So you don't think he'll sell it as his last season?
No. I think he's going to
play. Do you have an opinion on that?
I think in the end he'll decide, okay, I'm 40 years old. I made a promise to my country to play 1 year in their league. I can't do this forever. I think breaking his leg made him realize that. I hate to say it, but I think this is, I could be wrong, but it's looking like this will be his last year. I think C4 is right, though. It'll depend heavily, though, on how close they get to the cup. If he can taste that cup,
he'll go another year.
He might be tempted to go another year.
And that's why I kind of think that he's not going to sell it as his last year, right? I mean, because I think he wants to leave the door open to if there's success in the future, based on his comments this week. So
yeah, I don't think he'll go more than one extra
one more
year.
Yeah.
I
So
don't think because like Gil said, he does want to play another year in Russia, at least a year in Russia.
So that's why I think next year, and then if he does well enough, he gets more than 20 goals, and maybe out of at least one round in the playoffs, he does one more, and then he's done. And so that's what I'm betting on. But it'll be interesting to see because we're keeping this podcast alive for as long as he does it. So there's vested interest, on at least in its current configuration. We might do something different after that. So,
right.
But yeah, so but C4, I want to thank you so much for your coverage of the Capitals and of the Bears and of all this stuff. And I'll do the command, and people can definitely check you on the Capitals Off the Chain podcast. Which is on Spotify.
Yeah, this week's episode is going to be recorded on Thursday because Marcus and I are going to the game tomorrow, and I believe at Gil it's gonna be just you and Marcus unless Jared is around, because it is the day one of the state track meet on Thursday. And
that's my understanding.
I have kids running in the state meet, so.
Well, best of luck to you. And
day one is Thursday, day two is Saturday, so.
Well, there you go. Well, if the Bears continue on, and they make it as far as Tuesday, still in it, or you have exciting news, feel free that you can jump back on next week as well. Or if you just want to talk about the series in hockey, you always have a spot here. So thank you, C4.
I will certainly keep you posted.
All right, will do. All right.
All right, thank you so much. I enjoyed being here. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it was great having you all season long. And Gil, final takeaway thoughts, and also the door is open if you want to cover some of the rest of the playoffs with us over the next couple of weeks as well.
I would dearly love to. I think I will opt out and take a week off. I love being here, but when it's been a week where the Caps score like 16, 17 goals and you got to make a video for each one, that's it gets a little taxing. So I'll probably opt out next week. I think I need to take a step back from hockey or a little bit. It was a beautiful ride this season, but it took something out of me. But I'm not complaining. And one more time, thank you, Mr. Gross, for offering up this wonderful, wonderful platform. I know you kind of you're in a spot where you don't want to keep it up forever, but as long as we're on this journey together, thank you so much for offering up this great space for where we can all talk about this.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
I will add my thanks as well, because not only I'm grateful that I've been able to contribute, but I've also learned an awful lot being on here too. So I really appreciate everything you do for all the sports, not just hockey.
I appreciate that a lot, guys. It's definitely a labor of love. It's now that my life is changing and I am staying home with the kids a lot more. The whole world is changing, but it's nice to have some element of my life that stays the same. And so I very much appreciate that. Through the ups and downs of life, and it's fun to celebrate the ups and downs of the sport and hockey. And it's obviously the reason I started this show is because of my love of the Capitals and of at the time the Redskins, but now the Commanders. But it's grown to be this really awesome space where I just get to chat with people all over the country and world. The fact that we've gotten people from Canada on, and people from Carolina and all over this country and multiple countries. It's just what a cool blessing. What a great way to connect and be able to talk about a sport we love, where it's not like we call into a radio show and they give you 2 minutes and they hang up on you and they talk about whatever they want to talk about. That we really get to have a discussion. And if it goes 40 minutes, if I need to now spend an extra hour with a champ to make up for my time that I've stolen from him, we can do that. And, it makes it for a fun adventure. And I turn on these cameras and system and setup, and I don't know what's going to happen. It's not like we pre-script this, right? It's, we have a general thing. And Gil, I really, once again, appreciate all the video work that you've done this season. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a big undertaking. As a video editor, I know that you joke that you only spend a couple minutes on each one, but the aggregate is a lot. And so I really appreciate you taking on that laboring oar, because I think it's added a lot to the show, being able to show statistics and stats, but also to bring levity towards the conversation. And it's honestly why I've dropped the audio podcast, because I really want people to be encouraged to come and watch it. And there's plenty of ways to watch it. And if they want an audio-only podcast, they can go to your show, and they can hear a wonderful audio show. And it's great that they have both options. And it's fun to have this space with all you guys. So I really appreciate all the work that you've done. If you want to take a couple weeks off and come back for the Stanley Cup final, you are welcome to do that as well. But if you don't want to watch any more hockey this season, I also but I appreciate
no more hockey till the draft.
Exactly. So, but
Speaking of, we'll talk offline. I'll send you a message offline.
Well, I appreciate you both, and we'll definitely talk to you both soon.
All right.
You'll be lucky. Hockey has an off season. Wrestling doesn't have an off season.
No, it does not.
That's true. It's all the time. So, but I appreciate Gil and C4 and Anna and Janaea and Ryan. It's been really a cool experience. I really love spending time with people like Stuart, getting to hear the Jets' point of view. I'm sad that they weren't able to pull it off. I wanted to have him back on the show. But it's cool that hockey can bring so many different people together, and I can't wait next season to hopefully get to go to a game with you guys again in person and bring Zach to a game. And
that would be amazing.
We got to make that happen. So, with that, I am going to change gears and switch over to whatever Ken wants to talk about.
All right, good night, all.
Night.
Good night, guys. I appreciate it. We want Champ. I like the chanting. All right, Champ, because you waited so long, you get to choose the order of things. We could talk about UFL making the playoffs. We could talk about MLB, MLS. We could even start with wrestling if you wanted to go that direction. So where would you like to go today?
As gentlemen, the ladies should be first, and we need to talk about the WNBA because the season has started for the WNBA, and the Mystics have started off pretty good. They are 2-0 so far in this young season. They won their season opener versus the Atlanta Dream by a score of 94-90. Brittany Sykes led the scoring for the Mystics with 22 points to go along with 3 boards and 5 assists in 37 minutes. The number 3 overall pick in this year's draft, Sonia Citron, already making a difference early. She had 19 points to go along with 2 boards and 2 dimes in 24 minutes of action. They had 5 players scoring double figures in this game, did the Mystics, while on the other side with the Dream, Alicia Gray had 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists, 36 minutes of action. Brittany Griner, who is a new addition to the Atlanta Dream, came over in free agency this past offseason. She had 18 points, 8 rebounds, and an assist. She came 2 boards short of a double-double in 28 minutes of action, but first win of the season for the Mystics came against the Dream at home at Care First Arena. Then they would go head up north to the Mohegan Sun and defeat the Connecticut Sun 90-85. Sykes, another 20-plus point game, 27 points to go along with 2 boards and 7 dimes in 35 minutes. Citron, once again, making a difference, 15 points in 24 minutes. Kiki Erafin had a double-double for Connecticut, 17 points and 14 boards in 31 minutes. Tina Charles led the Sun in scoring, 23 points and 10 boards. She also had a double-double along with 2 assists in 32 minutes. But Mystics were able to hold on and win to start the season off 2-0. And this is coming off the news right before the season started that their 6th overall pick, Georgia Amore, is going to miss the entire 2025 season after suffering a torn ACL during practice in the preseason. She just had surgery within the last couple of weeks, so she's done for the season. But their number 3 overall pick, Sonia Citron, is already starting to pay dividends with 33 points in 2 games. So that's an average of about 11 points per game so far in her first 2 games. So if she's able to keep up that pace, then this Mystics team should be able to do all right. But they have a very tough road to go ahead of them. They head out west for this week. They're going to be heading out to, and I'm going to pull it up right here.
I got it.
You got it? Go for it.
We're going to Golden State on Wednesday at 10, and then Friday they're going to Vegas, and then Sunday they're in Phoenix. So they've got 3 road games. The first 2 are at 10 o'clock at night, our time, and then the Sunday one's at least a matinee. It's a 6 p.m. start. One interesting thing about the Mystics, I'm surprised that they were able to score over 90 points in both 90 plus in these 2 games, because they really struggled with some of their scoring in the preseason. They lost their first game 74-79. They lost the second game 70-80. So they had a real trouble putting up the points, and especially against Atlanta, who was the same team that they played and beat in the first regular season game. So I'm very impressed that they were able to make a jump. It's always interesting to see. Sometimes preseason dictates how you start a season, and sometimes it has nothing to do with it. So I'm happy that it was the latter.
Yeah, and here's something to consider when you look at the scoring from Citron. Citron, in the first game of the season against the Dream, she was 6 of 7 from the field, including a perfect 2 for 2 from beyond the arc, as well as 5 for 6 from the free throw line to score those 19 points. Sykes, on the other side, who led the team in scoring in this game, was an abysmal 6 of 20 from the field, including 1 of 6 from beyond the arc, but she was 9 of 12 from the charity stripe. In the second game against Connecticut, Citron shot 50%, 5 of 10 from the field, but she missed all 3 of her 3-point attempts, and she only missed 1 free throw in her 6 attempts. Sykes was 8 of 13 from the field, but she missed her lone 3-point attempt, but she was 11 of 13 from the free throw line. So take that into consideration that in the first game, Sykes, who led the team in scoring, was shooting pretty poorly, but then in this game, she shot a little bit better, whereas Citron kind of went back a little bit, but still managed to put up 15 points. So that kind of scoring is going to be very, very key for this team. But the one thing that's going to help them even more is defense. And, again, they gave up 85 to the Sun in game 2, and then in game 1, it was a 90. So, they're not going to win a lot of games if they're giving up 80 plus points a game, even if they have this type of scoring output from some of their players. Again, 5 players in double figures in the season opener. If you got that kind of scoring, you still need defense to be able to keep you out of these tight games and to make you a very competitive and a team to be feared. And they're going out to the West Coast, and they're going to be facing a team like the Las Vegas Aces, who was one of the toughest teams to play in the WNBA. They have some dogs on that team, and this Mystics team is going to have to really be able to stand up to that team in their house if they're going to make an impact early in the season.
Yeah, it's interesting that Vegas started the season by losing their first game to New York. Some interesting matchups around the league. Obviously, there's a lot that's being made about this Indiana-Chicago rivalry, and it was interesting to see. There's all this talk about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, and that their rivalry, and there's been some
people seem to forget. Angel Reese is from Baltimore, okay? And the Baltimore came out when she took that hard foul from Caitlin Clark. The Baltimore came out.
Yes.
And you don't want B More to come out, because when B More come out, it's over. Okay. I'm just putting that out there. B More came out of her, and that's what everybody got. And that's why everybody talk. People forget that she's from Baltimore, and that's what you get. I should know. I hang out with enough Baltimore people as it is. I know how they get.
Right. It's so to me it's really interesting because there's all this talk about Angel Reese and who is she really, right? She talks such a big game, right? And it's just to me it's kind of funny because it's like I don't know. I don't think she's in the same league personally as Caitlin Clark, but she talks to herself like I'm the best, I'm the greatest, and
She's
I don't
from
know.
Baltimore. That's what they do.
But 5 for 14, yes, you had 12 points, but man, you kind of cost your team, right? Like you can't shoot like that. Like, it's not gonna work out for you. I don't know. It's just like, and then she let her get her under their skin, and I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see how that rivalry continues, because some people are trying to compare it to like some of the great NBA rivalries, and I was like, I don't know. I feel like
They're not there yet.
they're not there. Well, I just don't think Angel Reese is at that same caliber. She's a great rebounder. I don't, she kind of reminds me of like the Dennis Rodman type, but it's not like you put Dennis Rodman against Michael Jordan, like what I mean. It's not a real rivalry, in the same sense. Like I guess,
but see, Angel Reese is almost like Dennis Rodman. Rodman didn't care; he was going to be with anybody.
Right, exactly. I just don't think that they're even in the same. And then people are like, "Oh, if you say that, it's racist." I was like, "Nah, I mean, just look at the play. Like, I don't know. Like, it's not. It's. I mean, I do think that some people are bringing race into it. I don't want to discount that, but I think that you could also objectively look at the situation and just say one is a significantly better ball player than the other. So, Arun, do you have any take on this WNBA?
I think Angel Reese flopped on that play.
You think she flopped on the play? So yeah.
She got hard fouled by somebody else in the game. She didn't confront that person, but because I think it was Caitlin Clark, she wanted the smoke.
Yeah, I think so too. I saw the play. I kind of agree with that assessment of it. And welcome on in, Arun. It's good to see you. And Champ, any other thoughts on this, or should we switch sports?
We can make a switch, but y'all just gotta remember, man. Like Angel Reese is from Baltimore. Like when the B More attitude comes out, like this is what you're gonna get. Period.
Oh.
And Caitlin Clark, like she's a hell of a player, but listen, she ain't no match for no chick from B More. Let me tell you.
Right. Although gotta give her a lot of credit. She goes right in the lion's den, right? She is not afraid of anything. Caitlin Clark, that is, just like she'll just jump into situations, head first. And so mad respect to her.
There are two types of people you don't want to get into a fight with: a Baltimore person and a Southeast DC person. Because you might as well have your last will and testament already written up.
Sounds good. All right, Champ, I'll let you pick the next sport. What are we talking about?
We're going to be really quick with DC United because there's not much to talk about. They managed to get 2 points in the Eastern Conference table, but they didn't score any goals. They played NYCFC to a 0-0 draw with only 5 shots, 2 on target, and only 41% of the possession. Then they played Nashville, and they only had 3 shots and only 1 of them on target, and again, 41% possession. Not much to say. No goals were scored, nothing done. But again, they walked away with points, so that's the best thing you can say about it. They did walk away with points. They still currently sit 12th in the Eastern Conference table. They're 5 points out of the playoffs. If the playoffs were to start today, they would not make it. And they have 2 matches this week. Saturday, they do play the New York Red Bulls. But before that, on Wednesday, they have the round of 16 in the U.S. Open Cup against Charlotte. So hopefully they're able to put up some offense, get some goals, and really start to put this thing together. But they did manage to get 2 points last week, so that's a positive. The negative is they did it without scoring not one single God bless goal.
Yeah, they've Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to jump some of these teams because right now you got Chicago at ninth with 19 points. The Red Bulls have 18, and so did the Revolution. So, tying these and getting these single points isn't going to cut it long term. But Arun, have you watched any of the MLS? You have an
No,
opinion?
I haven't been able to keep track.
Yeah, that's fair. So,
But not just the point thing and getting just a single point for a draw, but also the goal scoring, because goal differential is a tiebreaker. And if you're not scoring goals, you're not helping your goal differential, which is not helping your chances of being able to do something with these tiebreakers. That's another thing
also
that
in
they
these
have to take into account.
close 0-0 games, a single goal you could win and triple your points. So it's a big difference, right? Because if they score 2 goals this week, potentially they get 6 points, right? So
Exactly.
that would have made a difference. That would have put us at 18 points, and we'd be right there in a three-way tie, for that 10th spot. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's change to some baseball. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, we could talk baseball. Nationals had a pretty interesting week. They lost 3 or 4 to the Braves. I know we were talking about them last week when they were in the midst of that series with the Braves, but then they ended up winning Game 3 of the series by a score of 5-4. But they ended up still losing the series. But they were able to rebound in a big way with a 3-game sweep of the Beltway series against the Orioles at Camden Yards, outscoring them by a clip of 24-13, which included in the series finale, the team as a whole hitting 5 home runs as a team, upping their season total to 50. They're on pace to eclipse 100. And I read a story earlier on MLB's website or on their app that last season the Nats as a team were second to last as a team hitting home runs with 135 as a team in 162 games. Only the Chicago White Sox hit fewer. They hit 133 as a team last season. So that was one of the main things that they focused on in the offseason and spring training is the power game and hitting the long ball. And now they're starting to do it. They're already at 50 home runs, which is tied for 14th in the major leagues so far. So that's the one thing that they've been working on is, getting that offense and getting that power going. CJ Abrams, James Wood, these guys starting to, get the long ball going, and the Orioles are just in a downward spiral right now. They even fired their manager after the first game of the series, and they still couldn't get it together and ended up getting swept anyway. So this is a very interesting dynamic for the Orioles, who just a couple seasons ago was one of the best teams in the AL East. And now, right now, they're absolutely looking like the Orioles of the past in the 2010s and early 2020s, just a pedestrian-looking team. And the Nationals were able to expose that in this series. But it's not going to be easy for the Nats coming up because now they went down to Atlanta and lost 3 or 4 to the Braves. But now the Braves come here to Nationals Park for a 3-game series. And then right after that, the Giants come calling for a 3-game weekend series coming up. So not going to get easier for the Nationals, but if the Nationals can take 2 out of 3 from these next 2 series, I think it's going to be a positive thing for them as they start to make that climb up in the National League East.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like the Nationals and the Orioles are like going in opposite directions a little bit, looking at these Beltway teams, and I'm starting to see glimpses of success for the Nationals and a positive direction. But man, the Orioles, how much they have fallen in the last couple of seasons from where I thought they were going to be. I had expectations for them this year. Arun, what are some of your takeaways on that?
Yeah, the Nationals took not only this swept the Orioles this series, but they took an earlier series where they took 2 out of 3, and they cut a starting pitcher also, Kyle Gibson, I believe, on Saturday. So the Nationals are just making. I don't know what happened to the Orioles. I think their fans are saying they also cheaped out, kind of like the Nationals this offseason. So, but I guess they're looking for a new manager, and we'll see what a new ownership in Baltimore, what they are going to lead the Orioles down, because they're definitely looking really bad this year.
Yeah, the Orioles lost all their games last week, so they went 0-6. So, yeah, that's definitely rough for sure. Any other thoughts, Champ, before we talk a little bit of I do want to talk about the UFL, and then I'm going to get a rinse thoughts on the NBA playoffs after that.
Pitching continues to be something that the Nationals definitely need to continue to improve upon. Yes, they've improved. They've been working on the long ball, and that's going to help the pitching with the run support and the home runs. But the pitching ultimately has to definitely back that up with some strong performances. We talked about last week. Mackenzie Gore only went 3 1/3, gave up 10 hits, yet still didn't take the loss in that one, which is absolutely strange. You can't have those type of stat lines, and you're supposed to be the ace of this staff. So hopefully this week, he's expected to pitch this week in one of these series. So hopefully he has a much better showing than he did in that last start. And hopefully the Nationals can really take this power surge that they're going through recently and be able to turn it into some positive gains moving forward.
Yes. All right, I want to talk a little bit of some UFL and Defenders. Exciting news. We Champ, Tim, Carol, and myself are going to go and sit in the cheap seats. If anybody wants to join us, I can let them know what section we're going to be in. But we are excited to get to a game in 2 weeks against a team that it's now being decided that we will face in the playoffs, Ken. And not only that, but it's already been decided where the location is. So it's a little weird because in the XFL, home field was decided by your record. But unfortunately, there's too many games happening at Audi Field. And so they couldn't secure that field for the dates they needed. So no matter what, this game is going to be a road game. But Ken, what are your thoughts on at least making the playoffs? And then we can talk about the game itself.
So I was like pulling back the curtain a little bit here. As I was prepping for this podcast, along with my own podcast, which we did earlier on, one of the thoughts that I had was that, holy crap, that game in 2 weeks is going to determine where that playoff game is going to be taking place. But now that you said that, that's like, oh, well, never mind then. Like, that just took away my whole thunder about that part of the conversation. Because
I kind of did a little research because I wanted to make sure I got it right, because I was going to also have that be the storyline. And I was like, let me make sure that that's true. And yeah, so it's interesting that unfortunately that it's not, because I was really hoping that game would matter for that. Now I even wonder, what's the point of being the quote-unquote home team? I guess maybe the coin flip? I just don't know. You're playing there no matter what, and it's a hard place to play. So it's going to be interesting to see, how that maybe changes the game plan for what we go into these last two games. In my opinion, there's no reason to try super hard, and potentially get yourself in trouble, but obviously you want to keep the momentum going. But it's hard to beat the same team 2 weeks in a row, so it'll be an interesting matchup nonetheless. But let's talk about revenge for the XFL championship, right, from a couple of years ago. And that was this week on in the Defenders. What were some of your thoughts on this week's game?
So this week was a really, really tight game here against Arlington. They were able to hold on to it with a 33-30 victory. It came after Arlington was driving, and with less than 10 seconds left, about 3 seconds left, and Luis Perez throwing a very heartbreaking, if you're an Arlington Renegades fan, interception to end the game. I had to go on YouTube to see the end of this because my DVR, they switched the game to ESPN2 to make way for the NBA playoff game. And so I didn't get to see the end of this game. I had to go on YouTube and watch it, but I did get to see the that really cool interception and to seal it. But what really stood out to me was finally, DC was able to get the run game going with 135 yards as a team and 2 rushing touchdowns. Deion Jackson had 89 of those yards in a touchdown on 10 carries. Teamu, who leads the league in yards and touchdowns, went 15 to 26. He was completed 57.7% of his passes, 240 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had a receiving touchdown on a very nifty little trick play that they pulled on the Renegades to really throw a little monkey wrench in their little plans and stuff like that. I thought it was a really nifty play with Teamu doing the rest as an athlete that he is to make that touchdown. But really a good complete game for the defenders. Defense did get a little bit beat up a little bit. Perez was able to complete 69.6% of his passes, 32 of 46, 350 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he did have that game-ending interception with no time left on the clock to seal the 3-point victory for the defenders. They are now in the playoffs no matter what. There's nothing they can do about that. They are in, but now they still have to keep that momentum going. They go to Houston this week. It's a nationally televised game. It's going to be on Fox at 4 p.m. Eastern in Houston. And then, of course, the final game of the season, which we're going to, will be against the St. Louis Battlehawks. It would be great to be able to get a W over them, knowing we got to play them the following week on the road and let them know we have your heart. We can beat you, and we will beat you again and again and again. So that's what I'm looking forward to. But a really solid performance by this team in this game, and it's great to be back in the playoffs after missing the playoffs last year. After having a very subpar season, it's a great comeback and a great bounce back for this team, and hopefully they're able to keep the momentum going.
I wanted to show a picture from. There we are. There are the guys. So we'll be back maybe doing some live. I know I did like a halftime and a pregame stuff. I might even do a live stream on Twitch, or I might go Facebook Live. I won't be able to send to both, I don't think, easily, but or I might do a couple of each. I've done that before where I did a video for a few minutes on each platform. So that's the crew that's going. So I'm excited to go for our second. Now it's our second annual game together, so we'll keep it alive. I forgot that I was wearing a Valor. That's pretty funny hat, but yeah, it was super fun last year, and we definitely had a good time going to that game as well. And yeah, so stay tuned. Next week we'll preview that game. It'll just be a couple of days before we actually get to go. So that'll be a fun show next week. Arun, have you been watching any of the UFL?
No, I haven't had a chance lately.
Yeah, have you been watching some of the NBA playoff action?
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of NBA playoffs.
All right, well, that'll be my segue then. And we will, let me see, we got NBA playoff graphics. You do this for enough seasons, you have enough graphics in reserve that I didn't even make one for this year. So anyway, NBA playoffs. Arun, the Knicks surprising a lot of people, and also in the West Coast, no California or Texas teams. I think it's the first time in, was it 29 years that it's been without one in the Western Finals? It's been a long time that neither state was represented in it. But what are some of your takeaways so far to get us to these conference finals?
Yeah, like basically the NBA regular season is completely different from the NBA playoffs. The Knicks were 0-10 against the top 4 teams, but I think people were overstating that when looking at the matchup between the Celtics and the Knicks, especially going into the series. Porzingis was injured, and even Tatum was dealing with a hand injury. Granted, I think the Celtics did underperform given that they had 2 20-point leads in the first 2 games, ended up losing, especially the second game, losing that. But I do think the Knicks were underrated going into that series, given their poor regular season performance. Granted, they traded for Towns and Bridges, and they were adjusting to their team, so that could be the reason they struggled. And they also got Mitchell Robinson back in the second half of the season. I think he only played one of those games between the Celtics, and that game went to overtime. So I think the Knicks, they were gonna beat the. I mean, they were beating the Celtics 3-1 with the Tatum injury, and that kind of sealed their fate. And yeah, the Knicks, led by the Nova, three guys from Villanova, they traded one of them to the Timberwolves, and but they played really well. And I think with the injuries to Porzingis and obviously Tatum being injured, the Knicks were just a deeper team.
Yeah, I was shocked. I'm so happy for our friend Scott, Firestone Rocks Drums, and for my dad who grew up a Knicks fan, and it's just been such a long time for that franchise, and it gives me hope as a Wizards fan. And there could be a turnaround at some point, and you could kind of tell that the Knicks have been building something for the last couple of years, but it's nice to see them take that next step. And man, it's a wild thing to see because everyone kind of thought the other shoe was going to was going to drop, but the Celtics, they kept on getting more and more injured. Like it just felt like they didn't really have an opportunity at the end there just because, and that last game was kind of a blowout. But yeah, I don't know. Ken, have you watched any of the NBA playoffs at all?
I have not, but I've marveled at the fact that the Knicks are like come out of nowhere and are have made a serious run in these playoffs. It just feels like we're back into the '90s where they had Charles Oakley and Patrick Ewing and Allen Houston and those that Nick team and stuff like that, and we're starting to see that with this team. Hopefully they can continue to make a serious run, but they got to deal with some dogs up ahead. So it'd be great to see them continue to make a really serious run here. I think Knicks fans have long starved to see the return to glory of this team, and maybe this is the start of that.
Yeah, for sure. On the Western side, it's interesting. The Timberwolves have just been this sort of dark horse. It's just been like storming through, all these rounds, and they look like a dangerous, dangerous team. And meanwhile, you got the Thunder, who are the odds-on favorite. But what an interesting journey for them to, from Thursday's game where they lost in Denver, which made Katy Perry move her concert, and they thought that they had life, and then a couple of days later they go and they lose 125-93 in a game seven. It was crazy. There was two game sevens this weekend, and one of them in hockey got blown out by Toronto, and against Florida, and then you got this blowout. But Arun, what were some of your thoughts on that series between the Nuggets and the Thunder?
Yeah, two straight bad NBA playoff games. The Knicks with the blowout of the Celtics, and following with this game, especially since the Nuggets and OKC had a really good game six. But Aaron Gordon, he had a hamstring injury, and it looked like he was going to be ruled out for the season with a grade 2 hamstring strain. But he somehow played the game, and he had like 5 rebounds and 7 points or something in the first quarter. But I think things really fell apart when they took Jokic and Murray out in the first and second quarter, and Russell Westbrook, he was great in the Clippers series, but he's horrible in this game. He was minus 23, and I think that key stretch when Westbrook was just committing turnovers, it's not so much as missing shots, but it's just that OKC was getting a lot of opportunities in transition from the turnovers, and Denver was just shorthanded in this one. If Gordon was injured, I think only Christian Brown was reliable, and Jamal Murray, he had the flu, but he played well in Game 6, so I don't really use that as an excuse. Porter, he's injured, but he's also inconsistent. And I think OKC's coaching was just a lot better, and given that the Nuggets, they fired their head coach Malone, I think that showed in Game 7, and especially with the key substitutions when both Murray and Jokic were out. And they used Caruso to guard Jokic, and they didn't have an answer for that. And that was just really confusing because Jokic outweighs him by 100 pounds. I feel like Denver didn't adjust quickly enough to that strategy. And I think they showed it earlier in the series, and it just looked awful. And with no shooting, it's just the Nuggets weren't going to get very far. Other than Jokic, nobody could really knock down a three.
Yeah. What a crazy series. So, starting tomorrow on May 20th and Tuesday, the Timberwolves will play the Thunder. What is your takeaway on the Timberwolves and being able to beat Golden State and the Lakers?
The Lakers series, I was pretty surprised that they just took care of them. I think JJ Redick playing everyone for the entire half really left the Lakers gassed. And then I think the Warriors were just shorthanded when Steph was injured. They were forced to a 7-game series, and with very little rest, they were beating the Timberwolves in game one. I thought it would be a very competitive series, but with Curry out, the Timberwolves defense is just suffocating. And I think the Vegas odd makers, I think they're underestimating the Timberwolves. Like, I think they're giving the Thunder a 75% chance to win the series. I think it's more closer to a toss-up. I would slightly favor OKC, I guess, because they have better depth. But I mean, it's not like the bench players of Minnesota are that much worse than the bench players of the Timberwolves, and it might even take two of the best 3 players might be Timberwolves players. So it should be a competitive series.
Yeah, for sure. It's just such a surprise for me. I did not have that in my bingo card for sure. And then you got the Pacers, who just matched up really well against the Cavaliers, and this is what happened, I thought, to the Capitals, where they were matched against a team that just matched up really well against them, and they kind of did it all season long. But people thought that, come playoffs, it was going to be a different story. It wasn't a different story, and Indiana looked pretty dominant. What are your thoughts on that series, and then Indiana playing the Knicks in the next round?
Yeah, the Cavs were slightly banged up, but I think the Pacers, even if the Cavs are healthy, I think they proved that they would have beaten the Cavs even if they were healthy, given the big leads that Cleveland had, particularly in Game 2, and I believe in Game 5 they had big leads, and the Pacers are just playing in a different level. And the Cavs, they're kind of like a great regular season team. And even 3 years ago, when they played the Knicks, they lost to the Knicks in the playoffs. And so it's like kind of like the Cavs, even though they hired a new head coach, it seemed like they may have solved their issues, and they have 4 guys that have made an all-star team, but they kind of folded against the Pacers, who just seem to be running a better offense and playing slightly better defense and coming through in clutch time.
So how do you see the matchup with the Knicks and the Pacers?
It's going to be a very evenly matched series. Last year they played a 7-game series, and the Knicks started that series shorthanded without Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson was banged up, and then they eventually lost OG Anunoby, and Josh Hart had a key injury, and Jalen Brunson. That by that time the series was already over. He suffered, I think, a hand injury, so it should be. I think this is like a very toss-up series. I slightly favor the Knicks, given that I think they're more motivated to prove that, like, it's always harder to like beat the team that you just like beat last season. But I think it's going to be a very compelling series, and Halliburton's playing like an MVP caliber player, and I just think Brunson has been a little bit better, and that's what I think. I slightly favored the Knicks.
Interesting. I want the Knicks to win, but for some reason I always feel like the Pacers have the Knicks number, and key playoff time. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, we talked about the last 2 times, like 2013 and 2024. So
yeah,
you're right about that.
Yeah, so it will be interesting. On the West Coast, what are your thoughts? Do you think OKC is just too much to handle for the Timberwolves, or do they keep the Cinderella run alive?
I think the only concern is I think I might pick the Timberwolves, actually. I don't know why, just because I think their defense is a lot better than Denver or Memphis, and I think they could slow down Shea. I'm a little bit nervous about the pick because Anthony Edwards can be inconsistent, but I think they've gotten more rest, and I think they also beat a better version of this Nuggets team in the 7-game series. So I think I'd slightly, for some reason, just because everyone's picking OKC, I'll just go ahead and pick the Timberwolves because it's more of a 50-50 series and I think most analysts are giving it credit for.
I do think it's going to be OKC versus the Pacers, but I really desperately want it to be a Timberwolves versus Knicks. I just think that would be such an interesting matchup, and it'd be really fun to watch. Just because, and also just a matchup that no one would have ever expected, kind of situation. And I kind of love those kind of storylines. Arun, how do you see it shaping out? What would you want to see, and what do you think is going to?
I think I'd be fine with either OKC or Minnesota because maybe a slight preference for Minnesota because then there'll be the 4 Villanova players playing against each other. But even OKC has a former Knick and Hartenstein. He was on the Knicks last season, but I would prefer to see the Knicks, obviously because of the Villanova connection. But Halliburton, I wouldn't be upset if Halliburton made it either because that was unexpected. And I don't think, even though the Pacers made it to the conference finals last year, a lot of people thought that was a fluke, and they definitely proved it wasn't. So that would be pretty exciting if the Pacers ended up beating the Knicks.
Sounds good. Yeah, great insight as always. Thank you, Arun. Any final thoughts before we let you go tonight?
No, just like RG3, he's been going on WNBA talk, and people are upset with his takes. I haven't actually been able to catch it, but thought it was funny that I saw it on the sports talk show that RG3, they were upset with RG3 for making too many controversial claims. I'm like, okay.
But it's so funny because I read all of them and I kind of agree with RG3's take on almost everything. And so I just thought that, like, I don't know. I think he's right in the fact that it's not always a race issue. Sometimes people need to be called out and they're not, at the same level. And I don't, it's interesting because I found it fascinating. A really interesting read. So definitely go give him a follow on Facebook if you haven't, because he had a video clip, but his description of the video clip was like a whole article. It was so long, and I found that just to be a really interesting read. But yeah, for sure.
Hold on, Arun just brought up RG3. Are we not going to talk to Arun about the Commander's schedule that just came out?
Oh, that's true. We could do that. You want me to pull it up? I can pull it up live.
I already got it up.
Do you want to screen share it? Do you know how to do that?
Oh, I don't know how do I screen share.
Hopefully, Jaden Daniels' season turns out better.
There's a
season turns out better than RG3.
There's a button.
I got it.
There we go. Giving control to Champ.
Yes. See, this is what happens when a wrestler's time gets cut. He goes out there and makes his own time. That's what I do.
There you go. All right, I think you have to click on the browser window, though.
Did I? Is it? Can you see it?
It's started screen sharing, but I don't actually see it. Yeah, I think
my laptop is being weird. Hang on. Sorry. It's being weird. You see it now?
There we go. Now I can see it.
There we go. All right. So the season schedule is out now. Preseason, it is what it is. But I think the main takeaway from this, the season upcoming, is that the Commanders have 5 primetime games this season, and 4 of those 5 primetime games are at home, which means that the already gridlock traffic that is the DMV is going to be even more gridlock with everybody going to Northwest Field at night, either on Sunday or Monday night to go see this team play. So, of course, we're going to open the season against the New York Giants, and it's going to be at home. But then week 2, we have a short week, and then we head to Lambeau Field to play on Amazon Prime against Jordan Love and the Packers. That should be a fun matchup there. JD5 versus Jordan Love. One of my good friends, Brit TV, who streams on Twitch and Kick, she's a Packers fan. I already told her, I said, hey, week 2 we beefing because she's a big Packers fan. Then we come back here and face the Las Vegas Raiders. Hopefully they hopefully they don't have their quarterback situation figured out, so we know how to beat them up. Then we have Atlanta, who I'm expecting to have Michael Penix Jr. as their starting quarterback. Then you head out west to the Chargers, which is going to be a 4:25 game in week 5. Then our second primetime game, a Monday nighter here at home against the Chicago Bears. So another matchup between Caleb Williams and JD5, the top 2 picks in last year's draft. Then we get our first look at the Cowboys in AT&T Stadium in week 7. Then a big Monday night matchup against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. We have the Seahawks in week 9. We have a rematch of the NFC divisional round matchup with the Detroit Lions in week 10, but it's going to be here in Northwest Stadium. Then we get the big one. We get to go overseas to Spain to face Tua and the Miami Dolphins. We have a very late, somewhat late bye, week 12 bye. And then we have a very interesting stretch. We have Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos, and that's our fourth. That's another primetime game. That's a Sunday night game here at Northwest Stadium. Then we face JJ McCarthy and the Vikings at US Bank on the road. Then we have the Giants. But here's the stretch that really caught my attention. The last 3 weeks of the season, both games are against the Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, who we lost to in the NFC Championship game. But sandwiched in there is a Christmas Day game on Netflix against the Cowboys here at Northwest Stadium, with the Eagles game, that Week 18 one potentially being a 6th. This stretch right here with the to be determined, this could be primetime games number 6 and 7 on the season, depending on what the standings look like going into that final stretch of 3 games. But this is a very interesting schedule for the Commanders, but this is one you would expect from a team that made it to the NFC Championship game last season. They have, based on the numbers, the 8th toughest schedule in the league because of the fact that they were in the conference championship last season, 5 primetime games. Everybody in the country is going to get a chance to see how good Jayden Daniels can be in his sophomore season, coming off being Offensive Rookie of the Year, having Deebo Samuel to be with Terry McLaurin. This should be a very fun season, folks.
Yeah. Welcome in Al Mal Music, who's a diehard Eagles fan, so it's pretty funny timing while we were talking about that. In fact, I think he was just streaming, or maybe streaming right now. So welcome on in. He is a freestyle rapper. He's a lot of fun. We've gone back and forth on the Eagles and Commanders throughout last season. So welcome on in. And welcome to the raid. I was just talking about how much fun it is going back and forth with another NFC East fan, and welcome on in. And so Almal is a hip hop artist who streams 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. He does freestyle raps, Fortnite, all sorts of different stuff. So welcome on in. Welcome on in, Life of Am, who's a great fellow emote artist. I also design emotes as well. I actually just started a brand new job doing freelancing stuff. So I'll be doing more emotes and graphics coming up. But it's always fun to see another emote artist in chat and another streamer as well. Life of Am actually streams before Almal. I think it's all 5 days a week, and they do. I believe it's 9 a.m. their time, which means it's 10 a.m. our time And then you can go over there and it's got Stoner Talk and hang out with them and chill, and then get raided into Al Mal over there. So welcome on in. It's really nice to see all you guys. I appreciate the love. We're actually talking about it's great timing, the current NFL season, or the upcoming schedule rather, and so it should be fun. Arun, what are some of your takeaways from the schedule that Champ just put out there?
This schedule looks a lot harder than last year's schedule, given that Washington, I don't know, it's just like playing a tougher division in the AFC, and I guess the Raiders and the Giants, I think those are must wins, because like playing the Chiefs later, I guess like even the Bears, like they were a bad team last year, but they had hired Ben Johnson, who spurned the Commanders like a couple of years ago, and he's supposed to be an offensive genius, and it's going to be a very compelling season. And seeing this, I like what Washington has done this offseason, picking up Tunsil for the offensive line and Deebo Samuel. That should be a good number 2 receiver. So I think it's just like those games between the Giants and the Cowboys were really close, and they lost one of them to Dallas, and both of the Giants games, even though they're pretty bad, those were single possession games. So hopefully Washington doesn't look past them, and they can take care of business against some of the lesser teams, and then build momentum and maybe have a chance against the Eagles and that stupid tush push play.
I'm sure Al Mal thinks it's the greatest play in the world. He was saying that he was trying to get me into the fantasy football league this year, and I really struggle rooting. I really feel like the best fantasy teams, you need to get the best players available, and I refuse to root for players on teams I don't like, and so it becomes very. It's the brotherly shove, and yeah. So I don't know. It's hard for me to get into fantasy. I love football, and I will do pick'em. And you should join our free pick'em pool, because there's no cost involved, just bragging rights, and no grown man calls her ass a tush. That's funny. So, Ken, what are some of your takeaways on this upcoming schedule?
Like I said, 8th toughest schedule in the league. You're facing not only your own division in the NFC East, but you're also facing the AFC West, which contains the Chiefs, who were in the conference championship last year. Well, not on just the conference, they were in the Super Bowl last year. Denver, who's come on strong last year with Bo Nix at quarterback, and the NFC North, which has Minnesota, who had a phenomenal season last year, the Detroit Lions, who drummed in the divisional round last year but had a great regular season, and Green Bay, who's always good, and even the Chicago Bears, even though they struggled last season, had some really good games last season. So this is not going to be this is not going to be a cakewalk for this team to try to get back to the playoffs. Even a team like the Atlanta Falcons is going to be a team that's going to be tough to contend with, and it's a road game, and you're going to be playing in primetime, which means there's nowhere to hide, because these primetime games are televised nationally. So everybody's going to know what you're all about when it comes time to play you. So there's no hiding. There's no, they can only see you regionally or anything like that. No, there's going to be 5 games this season where everybody's going to see you and know what you're all about. So you're going to have to go out there and be able to show and prove. And it's going to start with the Giants, who Arun just alluded to. Even though the Giants were were a very poor team last season, they still played us very, very closely in the 2 games that we had against them. So that's not a team to sleep on, and especially if they figure out their quarterback situation, with having Russ in the quarterback room, as well as Jameis Winston and Jackson Dart, who they drafted this season. One of those 3 guys is going to be under center for this game, and we're going to have to figure out which one of those 3 we're going to have to scheme against, along with having to deal with Malik Neighbors out there in the wide receiver position. it's going to be a very tough stretch. It's going to be a tough season for this team. If they're going to get back to the playoffs, every single game is going to mean something, especially when you get to that last stretch when you're facing the Super Bowl champions twice in the span of 3 weeks, with the potential of both of those games being primetime games in the cold, whether you're at Northwest Stadium or if you're in Philadelphia at the Link, and still having to deal with the Cowboys, who, now they have George Pickens to go along with CeeDee Lamb at the wide receiver position, and Dak coming back fully healthy and things like that. This is going to be an interesting season. Can they repeat and make it back to the playoffs? Kind of hard to say, but look at the schedule. It's definitely not going to be easy.
Yeah, I was just talking to Almal about his thoughts on the Eagles schedule, and he said that he likes it. Not easy, but it shouldn't be when you're a champion. And he's joining me in catching Pokemon. I know he's a fan of the Pokemon community game as well. It's it's gonna be it's gonna be an interesting season. I think our division is getting tougher. I don't know about Dallas side of it, but it's gonna be interesting nonetheless to see if the Eagles take a step back, or if it's gonna be if they're able to continue it going forward.
I don't foresee the Eagles taking a step back. I mean, they have all the pieces in place. They have Jalen Hurts, Saquon coming off being Offensive Player of the Year. They have the receivers. They have the defense. They didn't get to the Super Bowl by accident last season at all. They didn't get there by accident, and they still have the same pieces that they had to get there. I don't see they're going to be the team that's going to be have a watchful eye on throughout the season. And the fact that we have to wait until the very tail end of the season to have to deal with them is going to be even more of a tough deal to deal with, because we have to wait all the way until December to have our revenge against them be off of the NFC Championship. So that's even more of that's just even more motivation for this team to make sure that they are handling their business the first 14 games of the season before they have to deal with the Eagles later in the season. But I don't see the Eagles stepping back at all. If anything, they may take more steps forward and definitely be a even tougher team to deal with than they were last season.
Yeah. I don't know if Almal watches wrestling, but that's actually going to be our next segment that we're going to talk about. It'll be our last segment of the night, I believe. I think we've done all the other segments. Yeah. Okay. But I love, where we are with the Commanders. I kind of feel like we're going to take a step back, but I also didn't think we were going to have the season we were going to have last year. So clearly, I don't know what I'm talking about. It's all a crapshoot, right? Especially in football. It's such a weird sport. Like, a couple of injuries can just completely derail a season. Like, we actually got, I think, very lucky last year, where in previous years we've been hamstrung by that. And that's one of the things I give the Eagles a lot of credit for, is their depth. In both years that they won the championship, they've had a lot of really good depth at a lot of key positions, and I think that's been really helpful for them. So that's what I'm hoping the Commanders kind of keep on doing, because injuries can really derail a team. You're talking about how you don't think they'll take a step back, and that's true unless, a rash of injuries happen, which happens to almost every NFL team at some point within a 5-year period, right? And so it's just hard to know. And whether Jaden will take a step back or if he will flourish and continue his ascent. Sometimes second seasons for quarterback can be tough in certain circumstances, because now there's a playbook about that quarterback. So there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of time before we get to even see how it's going to shape up. But it is exciting. And if you want the upcoming Commanders schedule, we did post it on our Facebook page. You can always see all of our updated stuff, facebook.com.
Alma's definitely an Eagles fan, because he's claiming that JD5 is all we got. He seems to forget about number 17, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
We can move on.
Yeah. Yeah,
everybody tends to forget about number 17 until he burns you, and then it's like, oh,
right. It's true. It's true. Scary Terry for a reason. So you know Scary Terry. He still burns you guys too. You're
I'm
not
about to
immune.
say.
You're not immune.
Don't act like an ignorant fan and say 17 who. Don't be that guy.
Right.
You know who 17 is.
Yes.
He had a touchdown in the playoff game.
Yeah, he did. So he said, "I hate that I traded him in fantasy."
And Debo, I think they know Debo Samuels is too. He had a big game. Didn't he have a big game against Eagles?
Yeah.
The playoffs.
Right. So yeah, it'd be interesting to have Debo on our team. So
I don't know if it's a guarantee he'll be that good next year, but
yeah, we don't have the best luck when signing free agent wide receivers. I don't know. It's been very hit or miss for Commanders in the past.
There go Robbie with that pessimistic shit. Like, have faith. Debo might end up working out, and then everybody's gonna be wondering who we gotta cover, 17 or Debo. And then when you cover double team one, the other one eats.
Yeah.
Hopefully Debo's not eating too much. That's what the 49ers were complaining about, that he was overweight.
Oh God. You know what?
But maybe he should have been eating more. I don't know. Maybe he knew that they were done last year, so just saving himself for this season. We're paying him now, so now apparently he's getting in shape.
All right. On that note, Rid, I'll let you get your final take, and then we'll get into some wrestling talk.
Hopefully they make the playoffs for consecutive seasons for the first time since like 1993. That was like the first season I think I started paying attention. It's been about the same number of years that they hadn't been to a conference championship. So hopefully they break that streak and can pull off consecutive playoff appearances.
Yeah, so y'all need more weapons, though. JD5 is someone special, though. Shit looks better down there than expected. So, yeah, it's for sure. It's going to be interesting. It just sucks that we don't get to have our matchup until the very end of the season. And you get 2 games. And what are your guys' thoughts on bunching up? You know, you have to play the Giants and Dallas and the Eagles twice. Arun, do you like that? Don't like that? What's your gut?
I feel like it should probably be earlier in the season. I don't know. Like the Eagles, they might, if they win all their games like they did last year, they might rest their starters in the final week of the season. So, or maybe the 10% chance Washington could rest their start the last week of the season. I don't know.
I don't remember the last time a Washington football team had a game in the last game of the season where they had to rest their stars because they had nothing to play for. God,
I remember when they're tanking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Arun. Thanks.
That's a true DC sports fan right there. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I personally don't like it. I actually thought that they should have had Eagles versus Commanders first game of the season on Thursday night, because that was let the Commanders get a chance at a rematch there. I know that they maybe didn't make that championship game competitive enough that they thought that it wasn't worthwhile, but
I'd also rather play the Giants later when they're more hopeless, like theoretically. Like right now they would have a lot of hope in week 1 of the season, so
that's true.
I want the Giants to start Russell Wilson so we can just beat his ass. Like, that's what I want. I want him to get absolutely harassed back there so he can't use neighbors. I want Luvu and Wagner to just absolutely just destroy Dangerous and show that he's not dangerous.
Although they did beat us that was like one of the Pittsburgh Steelers' last wins of the season was when Russell Wilson beat the Commanders. Like, he was great that game, and he's terrible the rest of the year.
Yeah, that sounds about right. TC teams love making rookies, look good. People who are washed up look good. That's par for the course, right?
This is different. This is different. Whether it's Dangerous or whether it's Crab Legs Winston, we're gonna get him.
I want Crab Legs. I mean, there's a 25% chance he's amazing, but there's like a 60% chance he's going to throw like 4 interceptions. So I like those chances.
I like those chances too. I think that's a good way to end the segment. So, but Arun, thank you so much for covering all the different sports, and we might have you back on in the last couple of weeks. And a little bit of a show note. We now, since the Capitals are out, we are doing this show for as long as the Defenders are in, right? So if the Defenders. So we'll definitely be back next week and the following week. Whether that we make it another week past that will depend on if the Defenders win their UFL playoff game. Then we'll be taking a bit of a summer break. I still might do some streams occasionally. Probably not because I'm watching both kids during the day, so I'm not sure how that would work unless possibly doing like a video game stream because I know Zach would love to play Pokemon on stream. But yeah, so stay tuned for how many shows we've got left. I just wanted to put that in the notes there as we are starting to wind down the end of the spring season of Sports on the Hill podcast. We'll take a summer break and then we'll be back when football season is back. But we've got a couple weeks left to cover football, at least from the UFL side. But Arun, I appreciate, as always, your coverage of NBA and of the NFL, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sure, thanks for me on.
I'm going to do the Arun command real fast. You can always check out Hey Arun as well. And he also sometimes streams on Twitch as well and does some video game stuff. So thank you, Arun. And Champ, with that, we will talk a little bit of wrestling and what's the latest happenings in the world of wrestling.
All right, so in wrestling, Backlash already happened for WWE. We saw no titles change hands, which we all expected, but the fallout has been pretty sizable. It looks like we have Saturday night's main event coming up this weekend, which will see John Cena not defend the championship, but be in a match against R-Truth after he hit the AA on R-Truth through a table in the press conference after Backlash. We will also see Jey Uso defend the World Heavyweight Championship against Logan Paul, with the winner of that match going on to defend the championship against Walter Gunther on Raw the night after the Raw after Money in the Bank, which is coming up in a couple weeks time as well. So you have that going on.
Wait, we rewind for a second. Why does Gunther get the winner of that? He has the rematch clause?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, his rematch, the little rematch clause gimmick. So he's getting his rematch, and he'll face whoever comes out of Saturday night's main event as the World Heavyweight Champion. And that'll be coming up on.
And wait,
on
why
Netflix.
is John Cena's not a title match? I wanted it to be a title match with R-Truth. That's kind of lame.
I mean, it really doesn't need to be for the title. It's just that R-Truth feels slighted that his childhood hero did that to him, and so now he wants his revenge. So don't need the title to be on the line for it to be an effective matchup there. Also, you're gonna have Sami Zayn and CM Punk teaming up to take on Braun Breaker and Seth freaking Rollins. They had a bit of more follow-up to that on this episode of Raw that happened tonight with Braun Breaker taking on Jey Uso in a non-title match in the main event. When it looked like Jay was starting to get an advantage, it looked like he was going to win. Seth caused a disqualification. They started to beat down on Jay, and that's when Sammy came down, and then Punk came down, and they had a brawl to close out the show to set up that coming up on Saturday. Raw, Julia, who was down in NXT, has now officially been called up to the main roster. She will be on SmackDown. Roxanne Perez, who was also on NXT, a former two-time NXT Women's Champion, has officially been called up. She is on the Raw brand and qualified for the Money in the Bank ladder match for the women tonight. She won a triple threat match that involved Natty Hart, as well as, I can't remember who else was in it, Becky Lynch. She was able to win that matchup and get into the Money in the Bank matchup. Also qualified for the Money in the Bank on the women's side is Rhea Ripley. She won a triple threat over Zoe Stark and the returning Kairi Sane. Zoe Stark suffered a legit knee injury during this matchup where she had to be removed from the matchup during a commercial break. For those who have that on Netflix, to be taken to the back and looked at, and so there's no telling how long she's going to be out. She has suffered a previous devastating ACL injury in the past, so the fear is that it could be that too. I will keep an eye on the news sites to see where, what the injury was and how serious it is, and talk about on the podcast this weekend and things like that. But it is a very busy time in wrestling, with this weekend being Saturday night's main event, and then Sunday you have two wrestling PLEs taking place on the same day. NXT is going to have Battleground taking place on Sunday night, and then you also have AEW's Double or Nothing taking place on Sunday as well, since it is Memorial Weekend and things like that. So really busy time. Plus, Best of the Super Juniors is in full effect in Japan. Nick Wayne, who is the current Ring of Honor World Television Champion in AEW Ring of Honor, is currently sitting at 4-1, 8 points, currently leading his block in only his first Super Juniors tournament. But he still has 4 more matches to go, and a lot can happen with those 4 matches coming up before we can figure out if he's going to be in the finals or if he's going to fall short. Myself and Sage are going to look back on what's going on with that this coming Thursday on Twitch, when we talk about on the Best of the Super Juniors Rewind. Episode 286 of the podcast will be streamed live on Twitch this Saturday midday. Because of the fact we have Saturday night's main event that night. We're not going to live react to Saturday night's main event, but we want to be able to get the podcast out the way before Saturday night's main event, where we will be previewing Battleground and Double or Nothing for everybody to talk about when we get to that. So should be a fun time, a very busy time for us in the podcast world, the wrestling podcast world. But that's a good thing, because as I told Gil before, wrestling has no off season, so we keep going all year round.
Yep, it's quite the grind. I'm impressed. Lots of different stuff to cover. Definitely go check out Champ. They had they do a bunch of different shows over there, and sometimes he also, if you go check out under the same name on TikTok, he also does some video game highlights as well. And it's a good time over there. Champ and Sith have agreed that next week we are going on Tuesday to have a recap of the Saturday night main event, and that'll be at the 10 o'clock spot. And this time I won't push you to a later time slot.
And don't be surprised if I do a video game stream next week, because apparently the show is starting to become a popular game that people are playing on Twitch, and that's actually what I'm playing right now. So I might play some of the show on stream this week sometime. So if you're following us on Twitch, make sure you have notifications turned on. I might jump on and play some of the show and play some Superstar Mode for you. As I continue my Major League Baseball career. I got traded. I requested a trade from the Nationals, and I got traded to the Chicago Cubs. And then I took the Chicago Cubs from being nowhere near the playoffs to winning the World Series, while the Nationals were division leaders when I got traded to missing the playoffs.
Oh wow, that's some great revenge right there.
So clearly I wasn't the problem.
Right, there you go. So that's awesome. Go check out Champ for all sorts of different stuff. And Champ and I talk all different types of sports. And then next week, again, the first hour will recap the NBA and the NHL playoffs as it has been. I may even pull Champ in a little early. We'll talk about a couple other sports. Then we'll get into wrestling right at 10 o'clock. And then we will finish up with whatever other sports we haven't talked about yet. And so we'll talk about the UFL. We'll also preview our big game going to the UFL next week. And talk about, hopefully have Ryan back on to talk about how the Hurricanes are doing. We'll talk about there's just so much stuff going on in the sports world. So I'm excited for next week. Again, we will not be streaming on Monday next week. We'll give everyone Memorial Day off, and then we'll be back on a special Tuesday. And then the following Monday, we'll have another episode, and then the week after that will be to be determined. And hopefully the defenders make it to the championship and give us a reason to continue to stream. And if they do, then we will. And then I'd probably recap that championship regardless, if we make it. So, yeah, Ken, any final thoughts before we find a raid target?
No, just Caps had a really good season. It's unfortunate that they did get eliminated the way they did from by the Hurricanes, but hopefully they're able to build on this and have a much longer run next season. And hopefully Ovi can continue to do what he does best, which is score goals. And this team should be able to make another playoff run next season. Hopefully the Wizards, with the sixth pick in the draft coming up, are able to get a piece that can help them to not be in the bottom of the Eastern Conference again this coming season. Hopefully the Mystics can continue their hot start with after starting 2-0. Hopefully they're able to continue that on the West Coast and really make some noise in the WNBA. And hopefully the Defenders can close out with some momentum going into the playoffs. And go Caps, go Mystics, hail to the Commanders, go Kigenyo, sayonara.
Thank you, champ. With that, we will raid over to the cruise ship, which is one of his ratings. Dang, I hate it when they block raids. I was so excited. I've never gotten to raid him before. Well, I guess that plan failed. All right, I have another friend that I wanted to go visit.
I'm not surprised about that because there was that problem a couple years ago with the hate raids where people would raid in and start saying homophobic and racial stuff in chats and stuff like that. So a lot of Twitch streamers sort of like had to put up safeguards to combat that, which I'm not surprised. Thankfully, it looks like they've gone away. Thankfully, so yeah, but I'm not surprised that people block raids because you never know.
Yeah. All right. All right, we're gonna go raid my friend Drolo, who I actually used to mod for, and she's a good friend. Actually, an IRL friend of Liz's. They went to college together, and so I thought that would be kind of fun to go. I haven't visited her in quite some time, so I thought this was a good opportunity to go do that. And I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. Thank you again for all the raids. Thank you, Champ, for the resub and a raid. Definitely an MVP for hanging around and being the villain in the arc, and you need a good rivalry, right? So we got
I'm drinking some kind of coffee energy drink that has 200 milligrams of caffeine, so I'm pretty sure I'm not going to sleep anytime soon.
There you go. Well, I appreciate you giving the time, and we'll raid over right now, grab a raid call, and we'll be back next week on a Tuesday. Have a good one.